At the latest residential planning for block 25 and 26 and a new block 27, which is really the southwest corner of the site of the downtown Superior. This plays off of what we're working on right now on block 13. So we have the team from Thrive Homes here. We also have the team from Remington, Ranch Capital, and RC Superior is coordinating the site design for all of this and making sure that it meets the requirements of the PD and the general design direction of downtown Superior. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Kevin Puccio with Thrive Homes to give you a little introduction, and we'll walk through Thrive's design and then Remington's design. And I guess pretty informal. I think we can take comments throughout, or do you want to wait until afterwards? So.
Yeah, I mean, keep it informal, so if somebody has some, as they go through, we can jump in.
So, can everybody hear me okay? I don't know if you want me to stand up and be all formal, or if this is fine with everybody. Can everybody see up on the screen?
Better.
Perfect. So, Jay?
I wouldn't mind if you stood up, actually.
Sure, be happy to.
Make you feel nice and comfortable.
Yeah, thank you. It's a lot nicer when all the eyes are on me. My name is Kevin Puccio. I'm the Vice President of Community Development with Thrive Home Builders. We are a local home builder. We've been building in Denver Metro for 25 years, almost 25. It'll be 25 in October under a couple of different names. Most recently, Thrive Home Builders. We rebranded from Newtown Builders about a year and a half ago. And I'll flip through here and I'll let you know why that is here in just a second. First of all, I'd just like to say thanks for listening to us tonight. Thanks for having us here tonight. This is actually one of the few communities that I've worked in over the last 15 years or so that allows this type of forum, and it's really, really beneficial. So thanks for taking an early look at this. So who are we? I mentioned that we just rebranded about a year and a half ago. The reason we did is because for the longest time we were Newtown Builders, and we were really pushing what you could do on energy efficiency, but we realized that there was more to our homes than just energy efficiency, and we asked, what should your home do, that your home can actually do more? And what we realized is that we've been building a healthy home now for many, many years to the standard of EPA's Indoor Air Plus, but we just never told anybody about it. And we realized that while energy efficiency and green building is extremely important to a lot of people, we think that the health of the families that live in our homes is just as important or more important. And then the third sort of leg of the brand is local. I am a partner in the company, as well as my 4 partners. We're all local. We all live here. We've always said, you know, what's the point in buying from someone local if you can't actually talk to the owner? So we are here. We've been in Colorado, like I said, for 25 years. On the efficiency piece, sorry, Jay. So Jay is much more organized than me. Like I said, he put this together. So I throw this up there. This is just a list of awards and recognitions that we've received since 2012. This is not to impress anybody. This is to impress upon you the fact that we are really, we put our money where our mouth is, so to speak, and we really are committed to efficiency, sustainability, and the health of our residents in our homes. I'll point out one of note here, and I don't know where it is on there, Jay, but third down. If you'll see this this award over here to the right, that's actually the Department of Energy's Zero Energy Ready Innovation in Housing nationally. We are the grand award winner for the Department of Energy's Innovation Award now for the last 4 years in a row. So again, I've talked most about this. I'll give you a real quick story though. We started off as Green Tree Homes, building in the Douglas County area in the late 90s. And even way back then, we're committed to sustainability and green building. The founder, Gene Myers, jokes that we were green before green was cool, before anybody knew about being green. We actually used to offer a guaranteed annual energy bill all the way back in 1998. In 2001, we rebranded as we became more of a master plan community developer as Newtown Builders. And during that time, built sustainable neighborhoods, walkable, new urbanist type neighborhoods, very similar to what you all are building in downtown Superior. And did that for a while and really honed our energy chops during that time. In 2009, we decided to go solar standard on all of our homes. And if y'all remember what happened in 2009, that probably wasn't the best time to add a differentiator like that, but it turned out to be because it is who we are. And we actually talk a lot about internally about who are we and why is it important and why it doesn't make sense to cheapen the brand. So we have to make the hard decisions a lot, and that was one of them. We were also the first production builder to harness beetle kill pine. If you all have driven up in the mountains, you know the epidemic that we have with beetle kill. We use 100% beetle kill lumber, dimensional lumber in our homes, and have since 2010. And we talked about the commitment to sustainability, high design, urban density, and walkability. And this is Gene Myers. I don't know how many of you know. This is this is the founder of the company and our inspirational leader. You'll notice that he's holding a picture of a funny white box on a wall. That is actually a Tesla Powerwall. I don't know how much you guys have heard of that, but we actually just installed our first one about 2 weeks ago. We are incorporating battery storage along with our solar capability. Right now, this is in Stapleton. We installed our first one, like I said, I think 2 weeks ago. But that's just one more way that we're trying to constantly innovate. And with that being said, I'll just leave you with this, and then I'll let Jay talk about the specifics. We are really excited about this project. It really does, and Jay will go through all the reasons why, but it speaks to our ethic of who we are, walkability and sustainability and healthy living. And Gene likes to say the elevator speech of who we are is our buyer is a 35-year-old woman who drives a Prius, shops at Whole Foods, and has Boulder County-like tendencies. What does that mean? Well, that means that she cares about energy efficiency, she cares about the health of her community, the health of her home, and she cares about the loved ones. She's become the CEO of her family and is taking charge, and we want to be the housing provider of choice for her. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jay.
Great. Thanks, Kevin.
I will try and stand up as well here. That's right. As Kevin just eloquently stated, why Thrive? Why is Thrive right for Superior? We also want to kind of convey to you why we are so very excited to even be considered to be part of the community. We feel that, as Kevin indicated, that we do blend well with sort of the values and the goals of Superior, and we feel that we can be a good community partner with you, help you to facilitate environmental stewardship, healthy living, and also push the innovation envelope, and hopefully, continue to win the grand award from the Department of Energy. More reasons why. I mean, you guys have seen this. It's a link at the bottom of the Superior website, that 2017 best places based on the niche website and the survey that's provided is #1 Superior, right? The Green Building Program, all the goals that are outlined for energy efficiency and how that can be accomplished and how we can help the town accomplish those goals with the product type that we are able to offer. Just the environmental initiatives and programs, they're all elements that are integral to the core of who we are, and something that I think we're excited to help be a community partner with. Again, we're very excited to learn that Superior is a solar-friendly community. Solar is a big part of our brand. It's a part of kind of who we are. That's how we were able to get our foot in the door with Tesla, is after they bought and acquired our solar provider, Solar City. But it's something that will directly benefit not just our product type, but our buyers, our owners, and the future community members within Superior. Also very excited to see that there's the new Energy Smart IQ, the solar rebates that have been increased, the 50% off energy efficiency upgrades and those solar rebates. Again, that's something that will come directly to the bottom line and to the home buyers' benefits. We're very, very excited to see that as part of your community. And also that low interest financing. Again, we plan to integrate it into the model of what we will build in Superior. And this time, it won't be in the downturn of 2009. So this is just a basic scale that kind of shows you the HERS score. It's kind of the energy efficiency scale that homes are modeled after and how we rank. Energy efficiency really is how we market it, is the cost savings that are included with the energy efficiency that we have designed and built in. This is a typical new home that meets code, ranks at about 100. Again, lower is better. It's like a golf score. Energy Star, which everybody tries to tout as the energy efficiency pinnacle, that's about 70. And where our townhomes are ranking is in the low to mid 30s. So that's something that we like to kind of point out to our buyers. And again, just kind of hearkening back to how we can help you guys achieve your goals. How the town board has, one of the 2017 goals for the board itself is to support the environmental sustainability of the community as a whole. I feel like we can definitely play a very major factor in that. So on to the specific site. That kind of explains why we're excited about Superior. We're looking at planning area 3, specifically block 26 and block 14. And this is the site plan that we have been able to develop. We worked very closely with Ranch Capital and kind of integrating into the geometry of the site, and then also working with Remington Homes, which will be our sharer, our cohabitant on this block 14. I'm sorry, on block 26, lot 1, the triangular shaped block in the middle of the screen here. And what I'm showing here is our 3-story product lining Discovery Parkway. And the way that we have designed our homes is to orient the roof to pitch towards the southern exposure, which maximizes the solar orientation. Right? It makes for the most energy efficient bang for the buck, so to speak. And if you'll notice, those units are self-served by this alley here, kind of runs parallel to our units. And then this block, block 14, is more square in shape. These units along the edge, for instance, they would front out, so they would actually have a low front of their roof slope so that it would also maximize that southern exposure and solar orientation. We worked very hard to accommodate, again, the geometry of the site, tried very hard to integrate a very strong pedestrian circulation and flow, the walkability, the connectivity to the surrounding site, and then actually through our site to the future amenity of the park that will be located in Tract E. So that's just kind of a general look at the site. This exhibit here was included in the packet that Stephen Williams provided. So again, I mean, please feel free to stop me at any point if you have questions about any of this. I won't spend too much time on it because I hope that everybody had a chance to take a look at it. But essentially what this exhibit is showing is that due to the significant topography and grade that exists on the site, we're really asking for an additional setback from Discovery Parkway in order to kind of step down to the sidewalk because it's so much lower than the grade within the block itself. And then we're able to provide, the other thing that this exhibit shows is kind of the parking diagram that was included in the packet. We're able to provide the majority of our parking internally, either with garage units that are internal to the unit itself or tuck under design. And then we also have some some on-site parking that we've provided for 4 spaces here on the square-shaped block 14, and then I believe we were able to squeeze about 8 or 9 spaces here internally on block 26. And then there are 34 surface lot or street parking spaces that are immediately adjacent to our site, of which we would request 4 of those be allocated towards our total in order to meet the parking requirements for Superior. So that's what this exhibit is showing. This is the grading plan also included in the packet, kind of shows you that significant amount of grading along Discovery Parkway. These are the floor plans of the product type that we plan to integrate. This is our slightly larger unit. The Courtyard 1 unit has some private space towards the rear, 1,484 square feet. The Courtyard 2 unit has the sort of private outdoor open space towards the front. It's also a main floor master unit, which is a very popular plan. These are our 3-story units. The Stacked Townhome 1, or TH1, is a 1.5 car garage. a little bit less or a little bit more than 1,200 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 2 bath. And then the stacked townhome 2 is slightly wider, 2-car garage, a little bit more than 1,300 square feet, and 2-bedroom unit as well. Then we have the stacked townhome 3, slightly wider unit, gives us a little bit more square footage and flexibility to go upwards of 2 to 3 bedrooms. And again with the 2-car garage. And these are some of the images of both renderings of projects that we've done in the past, but also projects in the surrounding region, and really a well programmed plan from what we believe we've developed over a number of years, where ultimately the car lives on the bottom floor, the ground floor. It's kind of tucked under in design, with a little bit of room for program space and some outdoor living space on the ground floor. And then the people live and kind of exist on that first living space on the second floor with the kitchen and living room. And then upstairs is where you sleep, right? So that's where people actually end up sleeping. Your car sleeps on the first floor, you live on the second, you sleep on the third. These are some of the images that we pulled from the actual Town of Superior design guidelines for downtown Superior. And we feel that based on these images, our architectural design will definitely be in line with what has been envisioned for the area. And then we start to talk about how we orient our design, the whole adage, form follows function, right? We have these sloping roofs. This is showing a low back, high front. You can kind of see the outdoor living space here, and then the floor plate heights. Again, orienting our slope so that the solar panels can be integrated into the architectural design and really be part of the building itself. And then these are images of recent projects that we've done that kind of show, it's a little bit dark in the bottom left-hand corner, but you can see that even the roof color matches the solar panels, so you can't really tell that they're there. But then from the ground level, looking up, as I mentioned, it's integrated into the design itself. The form does follow the function. So these are some of the section views that we've taken from the surrounding areas, cutting from south to north. And these are those 3 sections. All of these were included in the original packet, so hopefully people have had a chance to reference that. The sort of projected line that's shown here that I'll get into a little bit more detail on, that's the view shed that's being protected for the town based on the height requirements. So here's the first section on the west side. Here's the next section progressing east. You can see that guideline. And I'm sorry, the color coding here, the blue is for Thrive in this instance, and then the surrounding product is shown. That's the Remington single family detached there. And these are some more rendered images. This one shows you on the right-hand side, which is the south of the site, looking north, the existing homes that are kind of up on that bluff. And then the Remington product type is right here. You can see the street in between it, and then it kind of grades down to our product type, and the 3 different sections that show ours in brown in this rendered image. This was a view plane that was not included in the packet, so I wanted to take a little bit of time. We moved east because the topography kind of slopes towards the east and comes down in grade, so we wanted to show how that section view would be represented. So this is the next one, kind of moving and progressing further east. If you were looking back to the northwest, you can see that the view shed has still been maintained. And then this is the section just kind of proceeding a little bit even further to the east. So this is the PD amendment sheet that references the building mass diagram. And again, you can see where our blocks are here, highlighted in blue and green. And when you zoom in on blocks 26 and 14, the building mass diagram has the stipple pattern representing the 32-foot max height, or 1 to 3 stories. And gave us pause, but then we noticed that there is flexibility built in there that allows for building heights will vary within the maximums. For buildings of 3 stories or above, 3 stories will be the maximum height, unless a height above 3 stories is determined not to detrimentally affect the views from properties surrounding the town center. So that's why we took all that time to investigate all those various sections and cut 5 different ways, going through the site. The next note below it says that we would need to incorporate 3 view corridor analysis photo simulations in compliance with the view corridor provisions in the town's comprehensive plan. So we plan to do that. We wanted to just make sure that it was working before we took that next step. So that would probably be an aspect of the actual proposal to town council. So this kind of shows the building heights that we're talking about. Again, this is one that would be the low back, high front. You can kind of see the outdoor living space there on the front side of the building, allowing for the, it's a monotruss roof that single slopes to the south orientation and allows for not just the maximization of the solar orientation, but also the solar panel capacity itself. And then this would be the opposite one, the one that I referenced before, that would kind of front onto the street if it were oriented or facing south, so that you have the low front of the roof on the front side. So really, to summarize what we're asking here, the 3 things that we're looking at is the setback. We're requesting 6 feet setback from Discovery Parkway. Again, that's that area where I referenced the significant amount of topography and grade.
An additional 6 feet.
16 total, right?
Okay.
So an additional 8 feet actually from the maximum allowed. So there's a build-to line between 2 feet and 8 feet, and we're asking
That's
for
not a
16.
maximum, that's the minimum. So
Right.
if you want to make a bigger setback, all for it.
Oh, okay.
That was never meant as a, you can't build any close, you have to build that close. No, that's a misunderstanding.
Got it. Okay.
You want to
That's
go
good know.
further setback, please.
Okay. Well, good. In this case, I mean, it definitely
The
works
more the better.
with the topography, so that's good news.
Yeah, right.
The other thing we're looking at is the 4 on-street guest parking spaces, and I don't think we were ever planning on having like actual, signage that says reserved for guest parking of these townhomes. It's just that we could accommodate for those with the on-street parking, in addition to all of the on-site parking that we are accommodating for. Again, we have 98 spots that are provided internally with garages and on-site guest parking. And also, the calculations that we've done are based on the maximum bedroom counts. It would assume that all of these sort of larger units that front onto the park, they have the option of doing 2, 3, or as many as 4 bedrooms. And we are assuming 4 bedrooms. We don't think that our buyers will always opt up for that 4-bedroom option. But we want to basically plan for the worst case scenario, quote unquote.
Quick question on the parking.
Yes.
Of the 98 spots provided internally, how many of those are the .5s?
The
In other words,
I understand, yeah.
Unusable space.
So the 1.5, so we have, you can see on the original site plan that I showed, they're kind of interspersed. There are 5 total units throughout the site that have a 1.5 car garage.
But we're not counting the half.
But we're not counting that.
So 0.
So 0 of the 98
Zero of the
count as-
point, that's right, that's right.
I want to clarify.
Yeah. That's more just to, I think a lot of times we hear concerns about people, wanting to use their garages for storage. So we try to provide a larger garage that will accommodate for the storage, and still the car can be parked in there as well.
But those are all 2-bedroom
Correct.
homes.
Yes.
And they only have 1 car
Correct.
garage. Which was never anticipated or expected. When you do the parking, you're the parking lady, but,
don't
the
get me
calculation is not
It's already
meaning
6.
1.5. It was to come up with a maximum number within an environment, and there was never an expectation.
1.5 was a mathematical average.
yeah.
It was not intended to be the actual space
Right.
in a unit. Anyway.
And
And
parking
that's
on
more-
the streets was never really, we have that problem in other sections of Superior now, that there aren't enough garage spaces.
Or people are using.
Or they're not using it to park their car. And then what we have is all the problem of the cars are parked on the street. And you can't get through.
You can't regulate that,
You can't
though.
regulate it, and so when you automatically squeeze out, you said the car lives in the garage. No, it doesn't. Here, the cars live in the street.
For some.
For most of these areas where you have 1.5 or tandem garages or 2 garages and there's 3 or 4 bedrooms. 4 bedrooms and 2-car garage. You will have a car in the street. all the time.
Well, and the functional problem of what Rita's saying is, see how you come down Discovery Parkway? So you've got the island in there, et cetera, then you come down, and look when that's fully parked. How do you get through there? And, you know, we've got compact living down there, so the fear is kids coming between cars, and especially when parks and stuff are actually involved, so.
And inside of the community, where are the parking spaces inside,
So
like
there-
block 14?
There are 9 spaces
On the
right
street.
here,
Oh,
parallel.
no, that's the
This
alley.
isn't- Yeah, it was a
Okay.
private alley, so these would be, you know, just allocated, which exceeds what would be required for, you know, based on the parking regulations for that triangular shaped block.
Uh-huh.
And then there are these 3 green guest spaces that are accommodated for there in the block 14.
So this one over here where you have on block 26, that's a great idea and a way to park your people's cars.
Right.
Your homeowners' cars in their community.
Right.
Not on the public streets, you know, or the streets that everybody else has to use too to get down to or into Superior Town Center. But where if you create where you're gonna squeeze people out because they're gonna use their garages for storage, those cars will live on the street. They will not live in the garages. And if you're selling these as homes, which I think you are, there's no way we can regulate anybody. It can regulate putting them in the garages rather than on the streets, the public streets.
So I'll quickly speak to a couple of these things from our perspective. We do have CCNRs that require you park in your garage. You're not allowed to use it for storage, and the Metro District can regulate that with fees. It's written into the CCNRs.
However many garages you have to, if you have that many cars, they have to be
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
And they'll be monitored and ticketed.
Yeah. The Metro District is setting up an operation and maintenance staff. It's going to have a regular rounds, and that's all being put into place now, but it's all codified already in the CCNRs and in the underlying documents. So while, you know, I'll admit, though, in practice, it is a hard thing to police. The Metro District is going to be working on it, and it is enforceable, so it's not just something given up. To the point about the cars on the street, I mean, one of the things we're doing here with this urban design is creating this walkable community, right? And part of that is having cars parked alongside of the street to narrow that drive lane so that people through this area, you know, as you come down Discovery Parkway, this is you know, what's called the Grand Boulevard design, right? There's no parking on the sides. You're going probably 30, 40 miles an hour, and you feel comfortable because there's no crosswalks, and that's what that's designed to be, with an island and really protected for the cars going fast. As you get into the town center here and get to this intersection, this is a stop sign, so everyone's stopping here. And as you move into the town center, either towards Village Green Park or down south through Planning Area 3, we want you to be going 15 to 20 miles an hour max. And so part of that is squeezing these streets in with parking and with landscaping and all of these pedestrian build-outs to make you feel like it's not safe to go more than 20 miles an hour, because otherwise people will. So that's, you know, part of the reason I think it's important to have street parking along here and have it be full as much of the time as possible. Is it makes it feel like a vibrant, walkable community. It makes the cars go slow. The other thing on the parking ratios, the 1.5 is required. And, you know, we don't want to be exceeding our parking minimums by 20% every time. Part of what you want to do with a new development is minimize the parking as much as possible. We're trying to promote, especially as we get into self-driving cars and this whole future of parking that everyone's talking about. We don't want to be building a bunch of extra parking that we don't need. And I'm pretty sure Block 13, the previous FDPs did use street parking to satisfy some of the guest parking requirements. So there's a precedent for that. And I think we have a provision written to the PD. I'd have to look at the language, but I wouldn't. I think parking using, especially this proposal, using only 4 of those spaces for the required minimum is pretty generous.
Yeah, but, okay, so finish out your explanation. As you, in the narrow part of Discovery Parkway there, where you have parking on both sides of the street, is there sufficient space to have 2 cars?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's is it a Jim's not here. I think it's 55-foot cross section, so you have a 8-foot parking lane, 8-foot parking lane, and 2 11-foot drive aisle.
Okay. And
It will always be parked full. Anybody wants to come and visit, or if you're going to come to a downtown event, you'll never find a parking spot
This
there,
is-
ever, because it will
could
be
do paper
constantly.
parking.
We could, well, we couldn't, they
meter
could, yeah, they could meter it.
So Bill,
On a
this
public
is,
street.
On public street, you can.
Yeah.
Oh, we
Town-
could public
town-
it on Discovery,
so
okay.
we've got some example neighborhoods that are not pretty because of problems with parking. Sagamore as a whole community,
Mhm.
Castle Peak as a road.
Mhm.
And so as we go forward on all this, I'd actually appreciate if you drove those
Sure.
and felt those and then got back to us and said, why is this happening on
What-
those
and what's-
streets?
And what's different?
And
How do we keep it
and
from
why,
turning into
how are
this?
we not going to make it happen in the town center?
What was the second of the street? Lead?
Castle Peak and the whole subdivision of Sagamore in original town.
And in Castle Peak, tell them what the sheriff deputies have a problem with on Castle Peak.
Go ahead.
They can't even sit there and do, there is no place for the sheriff's deputy
To
to
stop.
park, to stop people or to check for speeders, because it is so park full and it's so narrow by the time they put these larger vehicles on each side. Well, you know, I should let the traffic and safety people
And then
talk
what-
about
what's-
that, but they're
yeah.
addressing this right now. What do we do about that? And so if we're having that problem already in certain parts of Superior, why would we want to create another one? So we need to do everything we can not to create another one. I understand, you know, the two garages, and I don't even mind the 1.5. I like it better than one, because it gives storage space in the
Right.
front. I think that's a great idea. But then, you know, it really needs to be the not single woman, not single mom, with, you know, the Prius or whatever, living in that space, or the older, yeah. Anyway, I'm not even gonna go who's gonna live there, because we all know that who lives there is not who you intended to be. I'm telling you, and we know that at Saddlebrook. 60% of those spaces are rented out, we were just told the other day. And so they're for purchase homes. So we really need to think about what are we creating and what are we moving it into? What will it become? Not what you intend it to be, but what could it become? And that's my concern, is that this looks like some of these, not all of them. I like the courtyard one, kind of look and feel. I think that's the one that faces, I don't know if that's courtyard one, it faces the park. I kind of like the looks of that, but the others to me look like just apartment buildings. And if I'm buying a home, if I want to, you know, I mean, people want to buy what they want to see as their home. So when you look at a building, you go, oh, I'm just part of something that all looks the same. I go down to Calmonte even, and I think about the time, and I can't even hardly find my friend's house anymore. I used to be able to, because I knew exactly, but now there are so many of them, 70 buildings or something like that. You know, so I'm kind of going, where is it? And the first time it was presenting to us, I'm just using this as an anecdote here, you could see the houses look different, even though there might be 5 of them in a building. You could see that there was a difference, not just that the courtyard was in the front versus on the side, but literally you could see the difference. There's kind of a differentiation. And I think Remington did that too, you know, before in some of their, or I thought they were going to do it down on Block 13. So I would highly recommend too that if you're going to sell these, and they're not going to be a series of townhomes that somebody leases or apartments, that you make it look like, that's my home. That one there with the green door. You know, this section is mine. And I can't tell that from a lot of these, and that bothers me. And there's no other place other than my deck, which is looking out, I'm saying as if I was a homeowner here. And you're looking out on the street. So I can't really tell from here. I don't know about these 4 on page, whatever page that is, 7? The only one I looked at that I kind of liked was down on page 8, which was that courtyard one for Block 14. Because, and then you have all kinds of green space and sidewalks and landscaping and all this, and it gets us, it doesn't really show us what it's going to look like. Because there aren't going to be any green spaces.
Those actually front the park.
I know, they're going to front the street. They front the street, not the park.
Well,
The park's on the other side of the street.
Let's have them keep going.
I thought we said that we could ask some of the questions. Weren't we at that point?
No, you can. I just, it sounds like some of this may be addressed in future slides, so.
No, I thought we were done. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, so this was the second of two questions that we had to ask, but I definitely wanted to flesh this out. This is part of the conversation. Please continue to ask. I think a couple of things that warrant me pointing out is that we're showing maximum bedroom counts again, so we don't anticipate, and I think that I can bring the actual sales statistics. I'm sure that we're never going to be able to predict exactly who's going to buy a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom home, but we can at least kind of look at the buying tendencies, and I guarantee that they're not all going to buy the maximum number, and so that would kind of scale back the parking requirements just based on the parameters that were provided, and we can come with more, I guess, detailed information with that as well.
Just about my quick math, and I didn't realize that we had planned it to the very maximum. When we say about the maximum, so we have some plans that flex to a 3rd or 4th bedroom. Most of them are in the basements along the CYs.
Yeah.
So by my math, we're adding 8 extra spaces that wouldn't be counted if we were just doing the standard parking calculation. If that gives you any, I know that they're still probably going to park on the street, but if that gives you any comfort in that. And the other thing that we consciously tried to do is limit the number of the 16-foot, the 1.5-car garages. Trying to understand this submarket a bit in a more urban setting, maybe that makes some sense, but we definitely gave thought to that in our site plan, that it's only going to be 5 that don't have at least 2 covered parking spaces and enclosed. So, but I get your point.
Yeah, and I like your designs, I like what you're doing. I'm saying it's more of a problem, with the way the developer has crammed in the blocks and all this kind of stuff. Now, I understand you're trying to maximize it, but also want you to recognize the reality of it is for the rest of the town of Superior, which has been around for 25 years or 15, 20 years now, most of the areas, it hasn't gone the way it was originally intended. And all of these words that you're using were said about other areas as well. Now, I'm not saying it's not getting better. I mean, as far as urbanism and fewer cars and all that, and we're right at the great place for transit-oriented development, urban living. But we have to look at the reality of it. A lot of people have cars more than what they're going to have spaces to park. And they will park on the street.
A point that has to be made here is price points. This whole area was conceived in large part on entry level, first home, small family before you move into the house with the bigger yard. And I'm very concerned that buyer is going to be priced out of this market. And some of it maybe we can't control because the whole Denver Metro Front Range region is really escalating. But you can't lose sight of that goal, okay?
Right.
So I just want to throw that goal out there on the table. 2, I'm going to reiterate the one adjective I use for design, and it's the word timeless. When I look at these plans, I immediately say N+20. Will this look good in year 21? And I have to say, I'm not sure about this. So obviously there are younger board members here who I need their opinions on, because this may be a generational thing. And I'm open to that because I got I have 3 kids in that generation. But that's what we want. And I'm not asking you to do the old Georgian colonial whatever. But materials and shapes and whatnot, I want to look super great and fresh in 20 years. We've got a lot of junk going up in the Metro corridor, the 36 corridor, that already looks awful, right after it's been built. And I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in something that'll stand the test of time and will be cool architecturally 20 years from now. And then I'll let you finish. I thought you were done too.
No, that's okay.
And then green spaces are important to me too. So when you go through your presentation, you tell us where are the pockets of green.
Sure. Okay. Well, I definitely hear you. I mean, I think that it's always been a goal of ours to aesthetically please the timeless idea. And provide not just materials, but you know, the shapes, the forms of our buildings to, you know, I like your term N+20. And I think that we'll definitely take that direction with our architectural design, and especially the materials themselves and how they can blend into the community as a whole and feel like it ties into the architecture and the feel. And yes, I mean, I think that we'll kind of, you know, delve in deeper to the design guidelines and the vision that was, you know, established for this community as well. As far as the green spaces go, again, a lot of these, it's hard to tell from the dimensions, but we do have, you know, with that additional 16-foot setback just from the right-of-way line, we will have additional, you know, sort of front yard space. We're exploring different concepts and ideas for how to activate that area. There are just, you know, sort of pockets that are going to be landscape tracks that can be integrated and utilized for the community as a whole. Whenever a home is not allowed to front onto an adjacent street and, you know, kind of provide that urban context, that feel, then we front them onto open space green areas with tracks. And the site plan that was color coded, which I can cycle back to here in a moment after I get through the next few slides, shows that that's all landscaped. It's the pedestrian connection that then also leads these individuals to the, you know, more larger shared amenity just to the northeast there. And then as far as, you know, the units themselves, we've definitely tried to program in the private open space, both on the ground floor as a patio, gated in area, and then also a second floor patio that accommodates for some of that outdoor activity. And we've seen it utilized extremely well. I mean, talking to our home buyers, we have these meet your neighbor events where we go back and talk to our buyers after they've, you know, purchased the home and lived in it for a while. That's extremely valuable information. So we're constantly trying to dial into exactly what they want to do, and we've tried to kind of refine that throughout the years, and we can continue to try and refine it as well. So we're open to suggestions. So in the interest of time, I don't want to hog from Guillaume and Remington. The last thing that we're asking is the building height question. So what we're asking for is building heights, you know, from approximately, give or take, plus or minus, 37 feet 8 inches up to 39 feet 8 inches, depending on whether or not it's a low front, high back, or the opposite. And that, again, just to reiterate, is so that we can maximize our solar orientation, orienting it towards the south. And by having that sort of monotruss roof, we can add more solar panels. And with the, you know, enhanced efficiency of these solar panels, there's no saying what we could actually achieve with that capacity. But also, I mean, that directly ties into the numerous green building and environmental sustainability goals for the town, for the board, and for the community as a whole. And then, you know, lastly, that we're able to comply with the view shed and not detrimentally affect the views from the surrounding properties. So again, this is kind of the, yes, please.
What is the height on the low side of the sloped roofs?
On the low side of the sloped roofs, it gets a little bit below, it's right at that 32-foot mark. So it just kind of slopes up. It slopes up at a 2.5 in 12 slope.
So you're not at 30, so you're at 32 on the low side, even on the 39?
We're just above the 32.
Yeah, I would say on the low side.
Right, that's what,
Yeah.
right.
Keep going. You had another elevation that had.
Yeah, I don't think we
you didn't
mentioned
have
the
it.
lower side.
No, you did.
We can get that information though.
You had it.
It's right, yeah.
There you go. So it looks like it's a little lower than 32, but I
Yeah.
don't know if that's accurate.
It's not accurate.
Okay.
It's representational. Sorry, it's
Yeah,
not to
right at
scale.
there.
But your low side expectation is about 32, a little bit more.
Right, and it warrants noting that that's always going to be towards the south, so the low side will always be towards the neighbors to the south. I mean, I think that's a good point. It's represented in the sections too, where you kind of see the blue massing here, and I like that rendering one that shows like the surrounding properties as well. So you're always going to have that southern orientation, so the low side of the roof will be to the south. Right, in all cases. No, it's okay. So yeah, so just to kind of show the view plane that's been calculated in the section views. And again, just kind of how it blends in with the surrounding context as well. And these are just massing representations of the Remington single-family detached and the heights that are in there. And then this is more of the block over height requirements that can get as high as, technically to its highest point about 55 feet.
And one thing to notice too that I kind of pointed out before we went down this path was that all of these homes, because of the naturally graded site, by the time you get to the drive home, it's actually about the same height as the compliant Remington product. So you're actually not breaking that 32-foot height limit if you look at it from this area. Obviously, you are when you step down the path, but because of the view shed is so much higher and those drive products are marching down the hill, I thought it was a pretty reasonable request in order to be able to maximize the solar gain.
But
Just
there
for
seems to be a
reference.
problem here, though, because how high is the Remington house there, the yellow one?
So that's a 32-foot height.
Well, but your property line.
This one, this is an existing home. These are the ones that are on.
I got that.
Oh, you got the house.
Yeah, I understand that. But the Remington one is this second yellow one in the center here.
Mhm.
And then if that's 32 feet, the back of that lot there, that first row of lots along tract H, the back of that house at the 25-foot setback, which is, toward the north, the maximum of that back of that house can be 27 and a half feet based on the view shed. So there's something wrong with your picture.
Remember,
Yeah,
that was
down the site.
Yeah, that was if that calculation that was done previously was based on a flat site, as if the site was flat, and it had that line down here. The site's not actually flat, so that was never accurate. The 27.
Doesn't matter. It was that it had to be 32 feet, so it has to fit under the view shed, which
It
goes,
does.
and then this seems a little off to me, because you can't go that, what, is this a 4% grade going toward the
Yeah, 4
mountains?
degrees, yeah.
And then the difficulty I have with adding that sloped roof, shed roof on your houses, is that everybody over here is going to look right onto those solar panels when they're that high. What you're going to look at is right smack into that black solar panel roof. And so that really, these down over here further, I don't have my laser, but they seem further down and they're below what these other houses are, whether it's a Remington house or as you go up. And so I have a problem with those being any higher than the 32 or maybe 35 at the most. But when you're going 40, which is what you're talking about, 39.8 or something like
on
that,
the far side.
40 feet and 40 was really what the commercial properties were supposed to be. Not in here, I mean, I'm talking in Superior as General Discovery Office Park and some of those. So when you're talking about heights of 40 feet for a house, that's getting, in an area where it's supposed to be 32, that's what I'm talking about. And I understand that you're dropping down, Bill, and that you dug this out more, so you're below the natural grade of the slope that was to be that first row of houses that Remington's going to build. But that one bothers me, the next one over, because what everybody on the south side of that row house is going to look at is your roof at 39 feet, 40 feet. Now, I'm not in favor of allowing it to go that far above what was approved, up to 40 feet, from the 32 feet. Now,
It's actually another story.
it's an actual, because the 32 feet is for a walkout basement and 2 stories. That's what the 32 was always meant to be, and that's what all these houses over here are, a walkout basement. You don't have a walkout, you don't even have a garden view, you've got it flat on grade. So you're actually adding a layer over and above what's supposed to have been there. And I think that we'll have a lot of residents that are going to come back and say, we fought this, the residents, long and hard through the entire PD plan, Amendment 1, Amendment 2, and Amendment 3, to keep those houses along there at 32 feet, like everybody else's house is in the rest of Superior that butts up to there. And conformity is of concern to, that there's kind of a melding, that it kind of looks like it fits together. Doesn't look like we're making something so outrageously different That's why when we talk with Remington about their plans, we're gonna say that there are some house designs there that I think look really good and modern and fresh, new, you know, that will fit with what's already there. Okay, so I'm not in favor of going up to 40 feet. You know, a little bit maybe more, but see, the whole point is you're already putting that walkout basement above grade, not below grade, which is what the 32 feet was meant to be. And I don't like looking at the
So
back
thank
of
you.
the
I mean,
solar panels either.
That's exactly why, you know, we're glad that we're here before you today. I think we want that kind of feedback. I wanted to point this out, and there were more gridded sheets that we could show as well. I just thought that this was kind of like a good representation. But these sort of tick marks along the side here, those are 10-foot increments.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, this is a very massive scale. These are all 10-foot increments here. So they're very far away horizontally and linearly. And then when you get here, I mean, this distance here we estimated to be approximately, I mean, almost the height of the building. So that's a good 30 feet right there. And then when you get down here, I mean, it's even more than that, right? And I think what Bill was trying to reference was just how it does fit into, with the sloping topography, kind of the overall blend of the heights that are allowed with the overall development plan.
That point that you mentioned was about the town center itself, not up here in the residential section. You know, the note that you read was about changing the desire was to have no more than 3 stories throughout the whole thing. Anything over and above that, it wasn't meant for the residential houses on this end. But that's okay. You know, it's written down there, but just to let you know, that was mainly meant, and I think it did say around the town center itself, you know, like Main Street. This is far, this is a residential area away from Main Street. But anyway, I'm just saying that I don't like the idea of going so far over the 32 feet. And as Sandy Pennington mentioned, that's with a walkout basement, you know, and 2 levels. Not 3 above grade like you've got them. Okay.
So can I just say something real quick?
Yeah, there are
So
thoughts.
I think what you guys are doing, you're exactly the type of builder that we want to have here in Superior. I mean, I love the concept that you guys are, you know, eco-friendly. You're trying to cater to this demographic. I think Superior needs this type of product. I think Boulder County needs this type of product. The parking doesn't concern me. I mean, I think it's an urban area. People are going to park on the street. I view the problems that we have in Sagamore and the problems we have on Castle Peak as wholly distinct because we're not in an urban environment there. So, you know, I think the view shed is something to consider, but I'm not overly concerned about it. I mean, we're dealing with a pitched roof for solar panels. I love the fact that you guys are partnering with Tesla with the solar, you know, battery packs there. I think this is great. So I thank you for coming to Superior and being willing to invest, you know, here in our community, and I look forward to seeing a final product.
Thank you. Appreciate both points of view.
I'll also just comment in general. First, I don't want to portray myself as the demographic younger than you, so let that be stated for the record.
That's okay, Kevin. Facts are facts.
So I do not think this is going to be a rental neighborhood. I think this will be folks, frankly, of my demographic. I've not looked at any of the property in downtown Superior, but I've talked to a lot of friends that are already going to talk to some of the realtors, and what I'm hearing, and I don't have the data, I'm sure Bill would tell us whether or not that's accurate or not accurate, but what I'm hearing is most of the folks that are looking at the houses and considering purchases are actually from Superior, folks probably of about my demographic. And I don't know what your price point is going to be, but if I wanted to buy a house to rent and supplement my income there, it wouldn't be this type of new construction. I would find something else, I would think. I would save this, an investment for me or folks that are like me. Like Mark, I think it's a really attractive product. I like the solar right off the bat. I grew up in with an energy consulting background, so I really appreciate the efforts here. So I think it's good. In terms of the 3 exceptions, obviously the setback, no exception. The parking, I agree with Mark, it is it's going to be an urban, it's relatively dense, there's going to be parking, there's going to be issues, folks are going to have to drive around. If this neighborhood's not for you because you're not going to, be able to park your minivan in your 3-car garage, the neighborhood's just not going to be for you. Occasionally you might have to park around the corner, and that's just life, and that's going to attract or not attract. In terms of the building heights, I do think, I do agree with Rita and Sandy. I do think that the building heights are a little larger than I would expect. I think you do need to be very considerate of the homes that are on that ridge above there. While it's not, the view shed is protected, but it's not just about the view shed. It's about the aesthetics of looking at these houses. It's about the very hard work that the previous board did to make sure that the height requirements and other things are met. And so I don't want to be complete, I do think we need to demonstrate some flexibility, and it would be crazy to say, and it's 35 feet and it's 35 foot an inch, the board's going to reject it. That's not the type of board you're presented with. But these are kind of shockingly large, not shockingly large, but are much higher than I would have expected. And frankly, as I reviewed the packet, I thought I was sort of misunderstanding some of the things. So as I've seen the presentation, my sense is I think it's a fantastic product. It's not. Thank you for protecting the view shed, but I think we need to be very aware of the houses that are up there. That neighborhood has been really patient throughout this process. A lot of those homeowners have lived there since those houses were built. I believe some of those houses were sold as fairway view or golf course view, which was the original intent back there. So just understand that neighborhood is really sensitive and need to be aware of that.
Understood. Appreciate the comments. Thank you.
I would like to say one final thing. One, very excited about your company. Love what I'm hearing. I'm not familiar with you, so I can't yet endorse or I even say I looked at houses built by you, which I will go and do. Two things, solar tiles. You're pairing with Tesla anyway with that power thing. Have you considered solar tiles rather than solar panels?
Filled that one?
Yeah, well, that's probably an answer for the VP.
Yes, we have. And they're not ready yet.
Right.
So we were under a non-disclosure agreement, and still are, so I can't tell you too much, for quite a long time with respect to what Tesla is doing. And we've been planning on partnering with them the entire time. We are definitely with them on their smart inverter, which if anybody's interested in what that does, I can explain that, and we're on board with their Powerwall. They have not been able to demonstrate yet that they can produce the roof. We keep hearing it's first quarter of whatever. It always turns out to be
Later,
it's
yeah.
still not here. So
Well,
I would hate to make any commitments to that right now. Yes, we have been in talks with them since July of last year on that product. I can't make any commitments based on the performance that we've seen to date.
Well, I know we're in a rush here. The other thing is these shed roofs. Not a fan at all. I think roof lines matter so much in the aesthetic, and I'm trying to keep an open mind here. So I
appreciate
shall
that.
continue to try to keep an open mind.
Just
Sort
don't
of
let them look like
troubled by
barns.
that.
I grew up on a farm and we had a lot of sheds, so.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're ready to go on to Remington,
Yeah,
right?
I want to,
Okay.
we've got about 20 minutes left total, so I want to
Okay.
make sure we get to plenty of time.
Sounds good.
Remington, so.
So, I'm Guillaume Pouchot. I work with Remington. I've been there for the past 3 years. And just to clear the accent or anything, I'm married to the family. And I joined those guys a few years back, brought back the kids home. So that's that. I don't know, Steven,
Yeah, Stephen or Martin.
is that this one? Yep. Thank you. So I won't give you a long introduction about Remington. In the spirit of time, I think you know about us. We build about 100 homes a year, mostly on the west side of Denver. We do Jeffco and Boulder County, obviously. And we specialize a little bit on multifamily. It's about 50% of our volume. and we have a niche on the patio product, like you know at Cold Creek, and we've built Cold Creek the last few years, and we're finishing it up right now on the landscaping side. So I'll talk briefly about Block 13 first. And you know Block 13, I don't have really an exhibit, but I think you guys are familiar with what we've done there. We have 48 lots for the townhome, and that's these guys. If you remember a little bit of the brownstone look. We have 3 buildings now, 2 up in the air, 1 in foundation. Sales are going really well. It's really encouraging. We're really happy. The feedback is excellent. So right now, so far so good. And we have the single-family detached product that we took over from Davidson Communities that dropped out last year. So we stepped in, and we're building that tall, kind of narrow, single-family detached with a rooftop. And we're building the model right now, and we have a few prospects. It's an exciting product, kind of different, 3-car garage, lots of options, so it's very high-end in a way. Very few lots. So we have 14 lots for the single-family detached in Block 13, and 48 townhome lots for Block 13 as well. So moving on to Block 25. So we have different products. It's going to be the first one. It's going to be the continuation of the single-family detached, and we have 17 lots, the same thing, and I'll show you the elevation right after that. And then it's going to be this inside block. So right on the south side of Promenade, those are the Wonderland townhomes, and that's going to be the townhomes that we will build on the hill. And because of the grade issue that we have and the different topo, we have different type of products. So what we'll see on this site and this site, which is fairly flat, is going to be a product that's going to be similar in nature as the townhome that we build in Block 13. The architecture is going to be different, but the floor plan and the way it leaves is going to be similar, so probably about 20, 21 feet wide. And those guys at the bottom of the hill are going to be a tuck-under product, where you have the garage on the ground floor and the living on the main. And those guys are going to be a walkout type of product. From a width standpoint, we're going to carry a similar type of width as what you see in Wonderland, which is going to be 25 feet. So it's a real 2-car garage, lots of space, you know, place for workbench and storage and so on and so forth. From a grade differential, what you see right here is that you have about 30 feet to catch at its worst case. So we'll be able to catch about 10 feet in the basement, 10 feet with the garage, and we'll have a retaining wall where it's the steepest that you can see depicted right here. Otherwise, it's going to be just natural grade and, you know, landscaping, walkways, parking on that side. So we're going to try to make it as friendly and walkable as possible. This is going to be native, and I mean, it's a concept, so lots of work to do on landscape planning and everything else. In terms of count, we have, if I remember correctly, 57 lots. Right there. That's Block 25. If we go across the street, you can recognize Block 14 for Kevin and Jay, Block 26 and the townhome with the solar panels, and that's going to be a single-family detached that we have. Those guys are going to be 37 feet wide. It's a 40 by 40 box in a way. In terms of square footage, you'll see about 2,500 to 3,000 square feet. It's going to go, you know, down. So we have a basement for those guys. And from a height standpoint, I mean, we will be below 32 for sure. So we got, I think we got 28 lots on that. So from an architectural standpoint, that's what you see on Block 13 and Block 25, the single-family detached, where you're going to end up having an optional rooftop right here. And we have 3 plans, 6 different elevations.
Have you built these anywhere?
No, it's the first time. First time we built it. Richmond built it down in Littleton. It's called Cityscape. It's a slightly different product. You can visit it. It's a much narrower. It's 22 feet wide. This is going to live completely differently because it's a 34 by 36. Mm-hmm. So it's really more of a square. You have the ability to have 3-car garage. So it's truly a home. And instead of having a backyard, essentially what you have is a rooftop. So
It's much nicer than City
it's very
Yeah,
nice.
right, these are much.
Yeah,
These
these
are
are
much
very
more-
nice.
Not
nicer
much
than
nicer.
Cityscape.
Yeah.
They're wider and they've got.
Cityscape is planning, or Richmond is planning to build Cityscape near the mall, Flatiron,
Mhm.
around the apartment.
Mhm.
But it's a different product. I mean, it's much higher end.
Well, these are the ones you kind of took over, right?
Yes.
Yeah, nice.
So what's the space between homes?
It's 7 feet, 8 feet, 7 feet actually.
And you're having soundproof and proofing on
Mhm.
those outside walls?
Yes, yes. To answer you, actually, it's a good question on these guys.
Right.
Even though we could go down to 7 feet, we're planning on having a little bit more, because we're gonna go down in basement, so just to keep the bench of dirt and
You're
the
talking block
excavation.
27 is 7 feet, right?
No, that was block 13.
No, that's
we were
block
talking about.
13.
Yeah,
Block
that was what's
25.
already been approved.
So that's what's approved already on
Yeah.
block 13, and we'll continue on
What's
block 25.
Go down to that single family.
On block 26.
This one?
Yeah.
How far apart are these houses?
How far are
What's the
those?
setback between them?
We could go down to 7, but what we plan on doing now is 10.
Five on each
Yeah.
property, so you have
Yeah.
10 feet between.
10 feet, yeah.
Mhm.
And we have that 25 feet.
Will these be
easement area.
fenced between properties or open between properties?
Fence. But it's up in the air, I mean, we can do both.
Huh?
It's up in the air, we could do both, but we're planning on doing fence now.
Yeah, and this is going to make that type of fencing very critical to the aesthetic of the
Absolutely.
development. Please do not copy Rock Creek.
Mhm.
You have to promise me right now,
The
no
wooden-
copying that fence.
Yeah. Or is it fences?
Especially the color.
Wood, just.
Or the color.
Can we look at your
Sure.
elevation views?
Uh,
So that block 13,
Right.
the single family detached, that will be carried to block 25. That's the cross-section or representation of the townhome on block 25 between the walkout and the tuck under products. And you will have those walkways right in the middle,
Mhm.
and at some point a little bit further back, a retaining wall. That's, and here in this, we started working on this since the 23rd of June, so not much time. It's really early on in terms of sketch. What we've done on the townhome and the brownstone look is probably going to change. We're trying to get to more of a residential feel, so we're trying to bring a little bit more the architecture that you can see. It's probably going to change in the middle, and those lines are going to probably, to your point, become a little bit more timeless. It's part of the process, if you remember. We had shed roofs and crazy things at the beginning, so, and we ended up with this. On the single, that's the floor plan. So same thing here, what we're doing is about the same square footage as Thrive and what we did in the first block. So we're looking at 1,700 square feet, and I think that's going to be a worst case scenario. The lots are going to be bigger in some places and smaller in some others, but that's the worst case that we have. So we'll probably move between 1,700 to 2,100 square feet at best.
So you actually call them bedrooms, not snooze rooms, huh?
No, we're a
Well,
bit
that was
more
getting
traditional.
interesting. 9 feet by 9 snooze room.
That's the next step. We just moved to say eating and living.
And who's your customer for this product?
Actually, if we look at block 13 right now, it's surprising, but because we think that it might be geared towards a younger demographic, but it's 50-50.
Mhm.
We see a lot of active adults, coming in. They don't mind the stairs. They feel good. They're over 50 and they're like, I just want to be downtown Superior. So it's about 50-50 that we're seeing right now.
We saw a woman Friday after First Friday that was waiting for the realtor to take
Yeah.
a look at your product, and she was, I'd say, around 50.
Yeah.
And she was
Yeah.
very excited about it.
Yeah, we had a couple of families.
Yeah.
I think the single family detached will probably be more, I would say, at 45. We still having kids wanting to be next to the sports stable. That's going to be the single family detached on block 26. first rendering that we got. I mean, they're fresh out of the press. We got them today.
Is that batten board I'm seeing?
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, I shouldn't see it.
The only other thing she hates worse than that is corrugated steel.
No correct.
Yeah.
It is batten board.
Yes, it is, right.
Ouch. So is that your idea? Is that what you're doing?
The use of material is not my idea, no. I guess the lines and the style of a new farmhouse is probably the direction that we're going to take.
That does have its place if you use it right.
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming
I
from.
have yet to see that place in the vision of town center. You know, I see it in cheap construction. I've never seen it in nice quality.
We need to show you some examples
Good.
of nice.
I'm open, but I have yet to see it.
Well, this is just a concept.
This
too.
is just
They
a
can
concept,
change it,
well,
right?
but that's
Yeah.
what you want. You want to
Yeah.
hear what we
To get
think.
the feedback.
I mean, just because we're making concepts or comments about things we don't like doesn't mean there aren't things that we like too. I just want to be clear about that. We only have enough time to tell you things we don't like. So tell you but I'm looking at page 7 of what I was given. Do you have
Yes.
page 7? I like those. I
Yeah.
don't like this.
I
The
think
next one?
this one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See, now I
that's
like
the idea.
that. I like this. This is a lot cleaner, more modern. Doesn't look like a farmhouse that I grew up in South Dakota on the farm. So these, like the beautiful, clean-looking one in the center there, and the one down on the bottom left. I like these kind of a look of a house. And I know this is probably bigger than what you're talking about building, but this look is better than the one you just showed us, the drawing just fresh off the boards.
I don't know if we see this, but that was the inspiration. And obviously, this is a wood siding
Right.
with bricks. And what we wanted to do, because of the brownstone look, and what we will do on the townhome side is a transition with the bricks. So we wanted to transition the bricks and not necessarily move from a brownstone to already, farmhouse and just wood. So we wanted to bring the bricks in that transition to block 25, and then being in block 26 with something a little bit more traditional
Right.
in nature.
So I like that one that you just showed, that
Yeah.
I had marked that down as the center ones there look very interesting. That look and feel, not necessarily that exact, but that look and feel there as opposed to the hand-drawn one that you just showed, the colored ones. And then the other thing, there was a modern one, you just had that up too. Oh, you have some more, but those are too barn-like. It looks like a barn. Too barn-like. The one before, there was a modern, that one, the bottom, that's very modern looking, but that, when I think of urban, I think of that.
Yeah.
I don't think of apartment building, I don't know. And I don't know if that's the center, is the other side of that, or if you see more of that
No,
bottom.
that's the only one of that.
Yeah, the only one.
Yeah.
So, and this is an apartment on the top right, or top left, I'm sorry. And then, if you could kind of, and I know you're doing this, working together so that they kind of flow, like you were saying, flow from your brownstone. Doesn't have to be exactly identical, but there needs to be some kind of consistency. When you're designing a house, you don't want one room to be purple and the next room to be orange. You want them to flow together in the same way here. Blocks should flow.
Yeah.
They don't have to be conform exactly, but they should flow.
The,
So,
go.
sorry, I'm waiting. So I know if you guys are trying to take notes and, somebody doesn't like a particular board, I worry about, I also like the visual on that last one. My issue is, I think because of the lot size, because I know you want to do 2 and 3 car garages, I think we're going to have a tough time meeting that visual and getting a front-facing 2 and 3 car garage. I do not like front-facing, I don't like looking at a house and seeing a giant 2 and 3 car garage. So I think some of these designs are great. I have a very difficult time thinking about these designs and how I'm just not staring at based on the pictures and how I'm not staring at a big garage. So as you're looking at that, that's my feedback. But I love the product, and I've heard great feedback based on the folks that have gone to see the townhouses today.
Let's let him get
So
through the slides.
Yeah, just as an answer, and I think we're pretty much done on the slides, so we can go ahead
Okay.
on the discussion.
Just got it.
But for the single-family detached in block 26, we only planning 2-car garage. That's what's.
I'm going to hark back very quickly to the original discussion back when we did the PD before Ranch even came into the thing. we were pretty unified on that board. The square tops did not fit in this development. We wanted roof lines, we wanted articulation, et cetera, et cetera. So when I see page 6 with some of those flat tops, I'm like, the only one I don't mind is the bottom left, just because architecturally it's intended to be that boxy shape that really plays into the whole design of the thing. But I'm just saying that flat, which I'm seeing all over the place now, you're going to have to prove it to me that it's actually going to look in keeping with what we're trying to achieve here.
That's a quick point to circle back to the Thrive question too. Is I think I heard there's some flexibility on height, so that's good to know moving forward. They could hit the 32-foot height limit itself if you did a flat roof, but I don't think anyone wants that. It also kind of kills the solar orientation question. So I think the flexibility on height there, in order to provide some roof pitch and some solar orientation, is a good thing.
Before we close out.
Yeah, and we can look at the slope. Maybe we bring the slope down, or we look at smaller pieces, or we can look at how to get that down a couple of feet so it's not quite 40.
Dig it down.
Okay, before we close out, I want to give Sandy Hammerly an opportunity.
You know, I have nothing to add to any of the comments. I hate the square roofs. I really don't like them. It just looks like in 10 years it'll be dated. And so I don't like that. And I'm going to bring up my very favorite topic, which is, where the hell are you going to put the snow when it snows? And I just, you know, when I see a final plan, I want to know what you're going to do with snow. And then my last comment will be is, Bill, if you figure out how to actually force people not to put other stuff in their garages, you will be a rich man.
Unfortunately, I don't get the fines.
You know, well, the only reason I say that is I live in a community where we have tried, dealt with attorneys, and the problem is, unless you've got somebody that's standing there 24/7 enforcing it, it's really hard to do. So it's a very dense community, and as long as people know that when they move in, that's fine. But I will never believe you that you're going to keep people out of putting storage in a garage.
It is a difficult thing to enforce.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so, but I am concerned in all of these communities, and I did it before I was a trustee, that you've got to plan within the metro district for where you're going to put snow. It's a huge, big deal. It's not like the city where they can just push it up on the side of the roads. You got these real long, narrow alleys, and you've really got to plan. And when you've already got limited parking spaces, you need to plan for spaces where you put it. And just shoving it on grass doesn't work because it kills your grass. So think about that when you
Well, do we
guys
have, how much time do
design.
we have?
We do need
2
to,
minutes.
yeah, we need to close it out. I'll just close out by saying, welcome to Thrive. Thanks for investing in your time in our community. It's great to see your presentation. Gio, thanks for coming back for more, and we've heard great things about Remington so far, so I'm encouraged by both. I guess my comments would be echo what most has been said here. I'm also kind of sensitive to the height issue. I want to make sure we respect those numbers, particularly as we move further south. I think as we move further to the north, it becomes a little bit less of an issue, but particularly as we move further south. So,
Understand.
thank you all, and we'll break down for the regular meeting.
Appreciate the feedback. Yes.
Absolutely.
find out when they are, or where they are, and things like that. And then the other thing I've been hearing a lot lately about and of is airport noise. This summer, it has been extremely difficult to actually enjoy our outdoor spaces because Denver International Airport, the next-gen flight path patterns changed late last summer, and now we have all of the Boulder-bound or westbound departures from DIA basically flying right over Superior. And so I would highly encourage everybody who finds that this is a problem, and we've already said it publicly as local communities and the county and many others, that we've asked the FAA, the Federal Air Administration, to actually change that flight path back more to where it was, or move it further south so it goes over Rocky Flats, where I don't think that the elk will mind as much as we do. So, but if you have problems either with the airplanes, the noise from the airplanes that are leaving DIA, there is a noise office at flydenver.com that I would highly recommend that you give a complaint to. As often as you hear a plane and you don't like it, just give that complaint. And Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport, too, has a noise complaint online. And if you see planes flying too low and buzzing around too much, definitely give complaints, because the only time that they will listen is if they get multiple numbers of complaints from us. And every now and then we have to remind Rocky Mountain Metro Airport that the pilots can take off to the west and go out to the open space and turn. They don't need to do a hard right over Superior and Louisville. So if you find the noise from airplanes is more than it used to be and is disruptive, please take a moment and go online and give their noise complaint about the flights, if they bother you, from DIA that are going west, and also any that come and do a hard right over top of Superior here, because we have that right, and we can do that, and we can do those noise complaints. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, Sandy.
On top of what Rita just reported on, we also all, did you do the town board retreat on Friday?
I said that.
We
I just
all
said that we went to it, but
yeah, we all attended it, very productive. Some audience members were in the, some residents were in the audience on that, and you probably read in today's paper about the broadband decision to put that on the ballot at earliest next November. On June 28th, I spent 3 hours on the central operable unit at Rocky Flats doing a guided tour by Fish and Wildlife personnel. It has taken me this many years to get the courage up to do that tour, and it was quite worthwhile seeing the dirtiest part of Rocky Flats personally. Still uncomfortable, I have to say. You may have been reading in the newspapers for the past week the issue with potential moving of up to 300 prairie dogs out there. I did want to report that both Chris and I have been trying to work behind the scenes with the executive committee of the Rocky Flats Stewardship Council. We've been doing that for the past month before this story broke to get them to take this issue seriously and to engage Fish and Wildlife Service on whether or not this was a wise move, which both Chris and I feel it is not. It's definitively not a wise move in our opinion, because just a little fun fact about the contamination at Rocky Flats, it's unlimited on the central operable unit below 6 feet, and prairie dogs burrow to by some accounts, 18 feet. And they don't know boundaries. They can go anywhere on that refuge and spread contamination from one place to the other. So just wanted you to be aware, Chris and I were trying to work behind the scenes on that. Right now it's on the schedule for the July 24th Executive Committee meeting of the Stewardship Council. Wanted to report that Matt out at Wildflower Park. We were walking it last night, and right in front of us, 3 teenagers, probably 15, 16, were crawling up the pergola legs onto the roof of the pergola, at which point they sat on the roof of the pergola. And I put my best Kevin Ryan on, and I said, down! And they all got down. But they did sort of look like they were going to get back up there about the time I turned my back to them. So I don't know how we stop this kind of nonsense, but I think it starts with parents instilling in kids that they don't do this kind of stuff. I suppose they can get arrested for something or other if they, or get a nice little ticket or something like that. But please, let's use some brain power in making these decisions. And if your kid is coming home and bragging about it, maybe the timeout chair, even at 16, might be advisable. So I think everything else has been covered here.
Okay. On the 27th of June, I met with Suzanne DeVinny, board member, Rocky Mountain Fire, who was here at the end of June for our for a presentation and agenda item we had. I just wanted to reiterate to her that I'm committed to maintaining a good working relationship with the fire district, and appreciate our board members attending their board meeting and getting a better understanding of their challenges and so on. So look forward to continuing to build that relationship with them. The 30th, I went on the Parks and Rec tour with Rita, and thanks to Patrick and Matt and Tommy for doing a great job. I'm just in awe at the number of sprinkler zones. I have a challenge with my 13 sprinkler zones, and I can't imagine how they keep track of all of theirs. So that was it was a great opportunity, and encourage other board members to go along on that if you have opportunity in the future. The 4th of July Downhill Mile Parade and Pancake Breakfast Festival was a great success as always. I think it was one of the highest attendance events that I've seen in my years here. I like the idea of moving the pancakes over to kind of kept the entrance a little bit freer, and that was a great decision. On the 7th, last week, I had a phone call with Sheena Sullivan. She's the new executive director of Coal Creek Meals on Wheels. Town manager Matt Magley and I were both on the call to discuss ways to increase participation in their services from Superior residents. So we're all familiar with Meals on Wheels. They have opportunity to deliver meals to seniors, but they also have other programs that people may not be as well aware of, and that is they do a lunch service Monday through Friday, open to anyone that anyone senior that they have a capacity of up to 70 people per day at the Josephine Commons location in Lafayette, and encourage people to go to that. And just to build awareness of that, we were going to have a lunch with the mayor event there at Josephine Commons on Friday, August 25th. And we're going to actually arrange for a shuttle from Town Hall to go over and back, and would invite all seniors from Superior to join in that event, all that are interested. They also do meals for people that are just getting out of the hospital, any age of individual just getting out of the hospital. They have a service where they will come and deliver meals to someone that may be homebound after a major surgery or something. So lots of great work that they do over there, and we're happy to partner with them. Also on the 7th, had the town retreat here, town board retreat, and just want to clarify on the broadband discussion that we had, we're not going to have anything on the 2017 ballot regarding broadband. We're going to continue to study this item. It's a very complex and complicated issue. We want to make sure we get the details right, and certainly going to consider something for 2018, but nothing for 2017. And today I was fortunate to go to Denver to hear the Mayor Michael Hancock's State of the City address, and quite a good ceremony there, and a lot of exciting things happening in Denver. And want to circle back to the 4th of July. 4th of July is always a time when we have a lot of fireworks exploding around town, some legal, some illegal, and we've got Sergeant Chamberlain here. I want to give him an opportunity to come up and maybe give us a little bit of a briefing on how the 4th of July went from Sheriff's Office perspective, and challenges and enforcement issues that you could share with the board and the public.
Jim Chamberlain with the Sheriff's Office. So I talked to the officer who was on duty that night. In total, he had 2 calls for fireworks complaints throughout the night. He contacted individuals at both locations, one in Calmonte and one off of Riverbend. Gave both those people warnings, because for us it's always better if we can warn and get someone to come into compliance rather than write a ticket. We'll do that first. He stuck around the area both times, didn't have any more problems. He saw a few here and there throughout the town, but he didn't have any other calls throughout the night for fireworks.
Okay.
So our normal policy is to try and, if we can get someone to come into compliance and take what they have that looks like it's illegal, confiscate it, and then just let them go with a warning.
Okay.
If we have to keep going back, then we'll write them a ticket.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Just
So-
note,
Go ahead, Kevin. I was just going to say, so they only respond if there's a call for a complaint?
No, he saw some other ones going off, but by the time we get into the area, there's nobody there.
Okay,
'Cause
okay.
normally
I
you
just
see
wanted
one
some
and
clarity
you
on
can chase
that.
it forever. So he drove all around looking for it.
And they don't stay up in the air
No,
very
there-
long, so you
there-
can track them down,
There was
do
one
they?
fire on here on Peak. It looked like it was caused by a firework, and talking to the neighbors that he spoke to, there were 2 cars that drove through the area at a high rate of speed just before that happened, so they're thinking somebody was shooting them out of a car. It was a bottle rocket type firework that landed in a bush and caught it on fire.
So the best response, I mean, obviously it's a long time from now before it happens again, but if people are concerned about it, the best response is to call the sheriff's department?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted some clarity, thank you.
so I was going to just ask about, thank you, by the way. I was going to ask about property damage. So, a little fire on Peak, any property damage or just?
A little bit of the fence was burned,
Okay.
but
Thanks.
nothing substantial.
Okay. All right, thank you for coming in. Appreciate the update. All right, that's it for my announcements. Town manager?
Yes, so, meeting on the 24th is canceled, just a reminder. August 14th is our next meeting, and our work session is with the Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Trails Committee. I had a request from a board member to maybe start that meeting at 4:30 or 5. Or is there any objection to starting it at either one of those times? Just to give a little more time for the discussion.
Can we let you know over email, please?
I'm sorry?
I will email.
Oh, okay, perfect, thank you. That was it.
Okay, thanks. Town attorney? Town attorney, Hillary? Anything? Anything? Okay. All right, town clerk?
No.
All right, thank you. All right, we're now on to public comment. If you'd like to make public comment on anything, just give a little wave and I'll signal you to come up. If you just state your name and address for the record, and we'll go with you, sir.
Greetings, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, trustees, staff, and visitors. My name is John Lipsky, P.O. Box 2492, Longmont, Colorado, 80502. And I'm here to talk about the prairie dogs being imported to Rocky Flats. In 1989, I served a couple of search warrants at Rocky Flats as an FBI agent and followed through with the criminal investigation in Rockwell. The contractor at the time pled guilty to 10 violations of federal environmental laws, which puts me in a position of being constrained legally to talk about some of the things that we investigated. However, I am familiar with Rocky Flats, not only as a nuclear weapons site, but also afterwards. And I'm also here on behalf of Dr. Leroy Moore, who has a statement that I'll hand out. And Dr. Moore starts off his statement by saying David Lucas has accepted the offer of a Longmont group to bring prairie dogs to the Rocky Flats Wildlife Refuge. This is an unwise move. I think it's foolish myself. I'll echo Mayor Pro Tem Pennington's comments, and I adopt them. But also, too, in addition to that, Rock Creek goes under Colorado 128. And that's an outlet for these prairie dogs to migrate from Rocky Flats with the contaminants and bring them north towards Boulder County Open Space and Superior. Last year, we stood in front of this board and asked you all to reconsider the Federal Land Access Program grant. A lot of it had to do with safety, and you took a leadership role and voted no for that. You all are highly respected in addition to being honorable. And honestly, my name to a letter to the Fish and Wildlife Service is going to go into the trash can. I've seen enough documentation from local stakeholder communities like Broomfield and other communities that have made a difference by stating how y'all feel about it. And I would highly recommend that your board author a letter to the Fish and Wildlife Service and join in and request them to do an environmental impact statement with full public involvement about this mismanagement of wildlife. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Casey, and I am a Aurora, Colorado resident, 647 South Joplin Street. I thank you for having a moment to speak to you, and I want to say that I'm here because I know that you guys have erred on the side of caution in the past regarding Rocky Flats issues. So I thank you for that. I want to echo John Lipsky's statements that to encourage the city to advocate for an environmental impact study of what the prairie dogs might dig up in their tenancy on the Rocky Flats Wildlife Refuge, and what their migration patterns might be and what impact that might be on the environment. I'm very concerned about what contaminants they might bring to the surface, because as you heard, they do burrow up to 18 feet. And I'm also concerned about the health of the animals. Then would they have a life expectancy? Has anybody studied that? For burrowing animals that might be contaminated by what's buried there. As we know, the containment cap is only 6 feet. Underneath that, it's unlimited amounts of weapons-grade plutonium. And that's there. And it's moving. We have Stewardship Council reports that are showing that it's leaking. The Superfund site at the center is leaking. So if the animals are allowed to recreate through that, what are they going to spread around into the environment? So please, if you would, make a statement and advocate that we get more studies and more science on this before we open it up to this types of activities and recreation. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
Susan Bowers, 1770 Morrison Court, Superior, Colorado. I would also like to pause and echo my same endorsement that the town of Superior take a position and advocate for an environmental impact study on Rocky Flats. But I did not come to speak about that tonight. Saddlebrook was built by Jefferson Pilot Industries. And why is that important? Saddlebrook was built as apartments in 1996 and converted to private ownership in 2000 through 2002. In 2012, the Department of Justice obtained a landmark $10.5 million settlement to resolve disability-based housing discrimination lawsuit. It's the largest ever disability-based housing discrimination settlement fund to resolve allegations that JPI, also known as Jefferson Pilot Industry, Jefferson Pilot Construction, and 6 other JPI entities, collectively known as JPI, based in Irving, Texas, discriminated on the basis of disability in the design and construction of multifamily housing complexes throughout the United States. Under the settlement, which was approved, JPI has to pay $2.5 to an accessibility fund to provide retrofits at properties built by JPI and to increase the accessibility of stock housing. The builders of the multifamily housing must consider accessibility at the outset, or they risk significantly greater expense to retrofit properties. As a result of the settlement, multifamily housing complex will be retrofitted to comply with the with the Fair Housing Act and the Americans Disability Acts, and persons with physical disabilities will be afforded an equal opportunity to live and visit these properties. So why would I know about this? Many units at Saddlebrook were forensically measured for this lawsuit. Saddlebrook was built by Jefferson Pilot Industries. Questions?
Okay, thank you for the comments.
Okay.
Additional public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you. I'm Michelle Gaberloff Parrish. I'm a resident at Superior. I live in Rock Creek. And I'm also here, I guess, to talk about these little prairie dogs that seem to be making a big stir. And I also want to echo the sentiments that you all have been taking on a really amazing leadership role and being proactive and making sure that things like this don't happen. And I think rather than going into too many more details about the prairie dogs, to me this is a much larger issue, especially as someone who does live, in the part of Superior that is closest to Rocky Flats. And I have 3 children out here. To me, this is just part of what we're dealing with, of forgetting about the legacy of Rocky Flats, forgetting about the history of Rocky Flats, and starting to treat it like a normal place. And I think that we have to be really careful about not letting that happen. The more and more, it's almost like we keep giving little inches, and more comes back at us. That I think has to be addressed. So it seems like this funny, cute little situation with prairie dogs, which always seem to be an issue in Boulder County. I think there's a joke in there somewhere. I haven't thought of it yet. But really, I just want us to be thinking about the site as a whole, as a site. If there are, uranium, plutonium, arsenic, we know that those are all there. As I mentioned last time I spoke with you all, the Department of Labor says there's 1,000 carcinogens buried at the site. So if we know all of that's there, what happens when there's a flood, like we saw in 2013? What happens when there's a fire? What happens when there's a drought? We don't know any of the answers to these questions, but we know that the community is worried. And I think especially post-Flint, I would almost say this is a post-Flint era, just in having talked to neighbors who are asking me if something like that could be happening here. And I wouldn't dare to really answer that question. But I do think it's insane to, or actually let's ask like this, how could it be normal to recreate on a former nuclear Superfund site? And how could we say that we're going to protect wildlife from human development in the place where we've experimented with the most dangerous elements and technology that humans have invented? That's something to ask ourselves. So I'm not sure. I think that the letter is a great idea. I actually came to sort of ask you what else we could do to take leadership on this. I love that BVSD took a stance and said no students will be taking field trips out there, and I'm wondering what else we can do. We've worked in the past with the Mayor's Council on the Front Range, so I wonder if there's something else that we can do there. I also saw that the city of Broomfield is really concerned about some of the retainment ponds that they're looking at taking away at Rocky Flats that could affect the water for Thornton, Westminster, and North Glen, which are our neighbors, and a lot of people from Westminster come to our kids' school here in Superior. So is there something that we can do there? And, Broomfield has this great history with the water because they had to have their water source. They had to spend millions of dollars to relocate their drinking water source. So, they already have a bit of that history. I know we worked with them a little bit when we were talking about public funding for trails, and I'm just asking, on top of this letter that you all have proposed and that John has talked about, is there something else that we can do to take leadership here to say, this isn't a normal site, this isn't a normal wildlife refuge? It's one thing to have the place fenced off, which I think is a great start, but it's a whole other thing to start letting recreation be out there and to protect wildlife by bringing them out here. So if you would like more community input, again, we'd be happy to try to meet with you all and try to figure out if there are other solutions. In the meantime, I just ask that you keep taking leadership and be proactive.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment? Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Me?
Yes, go ahead.
I forget which thing it was that you
Do you mind coming up to the mic?
You guys unanimously opposed. Chris,
Do you mind starting with your name and address,
Lynn Siegel, Boulder, 538 Dewey. You unanimously opposed something on Rocky Flats. What was that?
The burn.
Participating in the
burn.
flap grant.
The burn and the flap
that would
grant.
go through Rocky Flats.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So I wanted to bring up Jeff Co., the completion of the Beltway. And I don't think this should go along on the east border of Rocky Flats, because that can expose just the whole population of, on a transportation corridor to the ill effects of this. My mom died of leukemia when she was 37, probably exposed, no proof, because cohort studies and everything, but we lived in Salt Lake when they were doing above ground testing. The Nevada test site, probably, there's a lot of, it's mobile, and it's like Michelle was saying, the drought, the fire, the movement of water, the natural earth, the critters, all of those things, and the aspirations. And you get one person, our whole family didn't get leukemia, right? But my mom did, and that was pretty devastating to our family. And so I wouldn't like to see other people exposed when they're just trying to get to work on a transportation corridor. I was really glad about the schools that are stopped from going there. I ask that any of you, if you have any way of finding a place for the prairie dogs, this would be very good, like other sources of places where they can be put besides with the weasels. And the prairie dogs themselves, some people were saying, well, the prairie dogs have a short life. Well, they have multiple lives because they propagate so much. And multi-generations down, sometimes these things will show up in form in later generations. And it does stay in the system. And it is carcinogenic. And it is malformative. So the animals could be subjected to all these things. Then the animals are also migrating off of the side, right? So those animals can affect other animals. And it's just not something that, I think any of us really want to do. So that's all I have to say. Like anything that you can do to stop this exposure to folks. And the big thing is, nationally, this makes a huge statement. If we're saying that, I was opposed to this 20 years ago when it was named the Wildlife Refuge with Skaggs and Allard. That's not, because then everyone views it as, oh, it's an okay place. It's not at all. And we need to, we're stuck with that name, but it's in name only. It's movable earth and changes, and we have to respect. The earth will last a lot longer than we will, right?
Thank you for your comments. Yes.
Sharon Tedeschi, 2070 Shamrock Drive in Saddlebrook. I wanted to come in support of Susan's concern with the builder of Saddlebrook, who is now looking at developing the Zaharias property across the reservoir. 2 counts. One, we spent a lot of money a number of years ago and a great investment of both the town's time, the county's time, and the members of Saddlebrook to preserve the reservoir as a wildlife sanctuary. And I think if we surround it with high-density development, that's adverse to the whole goal that we set 6 years ago in funding $1.2 million in preserving the reservoir as a wildlife area. So I would like to support either open space acquisition with the county of that property. It was a priority while I was chairing the open space committee, or at least a minimal footprint of development on that property, giving a sufficient amount of open space around the reservoir. And then second, I was a member of the board of directors of Saddlebrook for 5 or 6 years. And during that time, I had to deal a lot with the poor building standards and the ramifications thereof. Things like whole buildings not being insulated. I don't even know how it got past the building inspectors during that time. Roofing problems, et cetera, et cetera. When we looked for legal recourse, what we learned is that the developer had it as apartments for the period of the warranties, so that they were all properly expired by the time they sold it to owners, and the owners are now bearing the costs that should have been borne by the developers and were avoided through this loophole of it was apartments and they were in control, and now we're bearing the problems. So I'd like you to consider that when you're considering this developer to do another high-density project, because Saddlebrook is spending millions of dollars of owner money for the reparations caused by poor building and structural damage. So I'd like that just to be a matter of record. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Pat Mellon. I am a 10-year resident of Superior. My address is 2300 South Rock Creek Parkway, apartment 29-101. In an effort of full disclosure, I'm also an attorney. I work with Randall Weiner in Boulder, Colorado, and helped author the current lawsuit that has been filed against the Fish and Wildlife Service regarding the opening of the refuge without sufficient environmental assessment at this time. And I came to bring some information and maybe pique your interest in why the concerns about the prairie dogs and the environment out at Rocky Flats still exist, and there's still controversy. And so what I've handed out to you here is really sort of teasers from 4 pieces of information. The first is a book that I've been reading called The Plutonium Files. It was written by Eileen Wellsome. She's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist from Albuquerque who won the Pulitzer for a special investigation into the plutonium experiments that were done on unwitting, unknowing individuals back starting in the Cold War. And while I've included a page, the second page is a page really talking about the defense industry use of the atomic materials. What this book really talks about is the attitude, how it started from the beginning of the Manhattan Project, about downplaying the concerns and downplaying the dangers of both the raw materials and the byproducts of the atomic weapons industry. The second document is a document that I came across during a research project that I worked on last year at the University of Denver Law School. And it really talks about it was research done by the Department of Energy that talks about how the workers here and the leadership here during the negotiations, the protracted negotiations for the cleanup standard, were given direction really to divide and conquer and to make this as difficult as possible for the local residents and the local advocates to ensure that the cleanup was sufficient. And it talks about how one of the issues was about the lack of time and the lack of money, that it had to be done in 2006, and they had a limited amount of money, and they had to back into the standard that was used and sold to the public of what was left there. The third item is 3 pages from the CADROD, which is the decision that was made and issued about what was left at Rocky Flats. And I would draw your attention to the second paragraph. Some subsurface features may contain residual contamination. In particular, these features include slabs and building foundations. Well, they don't talk about that some of those foundations could be 10 stories deep, that there are tunnels that are big enough to drive a semi through. There are ductwork connections, and you'll see on the next 2 pages, this is directly from DOE's own documents of what was left there, buried under literally 6 feet of dirt. Just like if I came out to your garden and said, can I bury this plutonium in your garden 6 feet down? I probably won't cause a problem. You'll probably never know it's there. Would anyone ever agree to that? That's the question. And then the last document that I want to draw everyone's attention to is Love Canal. And while I agree with Michelle that we could talk about Flint, but Love Canal is a Superfund site. and they were assured that it was safe. And residents moved back based on those assurances, and it turns out it's not. And so while sampling for plutonium generates a lot of comfort level, and averages can be made to show a lot of different things, there are hot spots at Rocky Flats. There's contamination left there. And while I understand David Lucas's comments in the paper this past weekend that there's a containment concept for prairie dogs at the COU, there's no fence. Sandy can speak to what fencing is there, but unless there's webcams out there of prairie dogs going back and forth, there's no permanent staff at that site. So I'm not entirely sure how they can say they keep the prairie dogs off the COU or that they even know they're there. So my goal here is mostly to pique interest. As Michelle said, there is a greenwashing of that site. It's beautiful. No one's going to argue that. But let's not forget what's really left out there, that you can find it if you're willing to do the research. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any additional public comment? Yes, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Giovanna Enciso. I live at 1627 Reliance Circle in Superior. I just wanted to remind everyone again about that open space at 88th Street, also known as the Zaharias property. There is a healthy ecosystem, wildlife existing right now in this area. And I can't get over the fact that there are plans to build over it. As mentioned before by somebody else here, we should be protecting wildlife, not getting rid of it. As it is, 88 can't even take any more traffic. People living at Weldon and Reliance Circle can't even get out to 88th Street. All these new people and families will increase population, which will not only affect just traffic, but also our schools. How are we going to handle this problem? Student and teacher ratios are going to increase. What's going to happen with transportation? What does the school district think about this? Please ask the people of Superior what we really want, and please act on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Yes.
Hello, my name is Dalton Vallette. I live up on Carval Place here in Superior. Firstly, I wanted to say thank you so much for the 4th of July parade and the mile run and the pancake breakfast that was done last weekend. I thought it was a terrific success, and I know me and some of my family members had a great time there. I'm here today because I'm concerned for Superior. In particular, I'm concerned with our reputation in the area. Right now, I know a lot of people have been buzzing about the roundabout that's just been installed in McCaslin, and I know I'm on the 0027 Facebook page, and I don't think I've seen so many comments about a roundabout being put in place, but I'm interested in particular about what many people have mentioned before, the Zaharias property right off of 88th Street. What concerns me in particular is that we have a thriving ecosystem here. We have a place that is now home to, dozens of prairie dogs, and there's now a mink that's moved in. There's beautiful trails that are nearby it. There's beautiful views of the sunrise that you can see each morning, and it's being threatened by the potential for development. What's confusing to me is we just spent $600,000 as Superior to reinvigorate that environment, as well as Boulder County spending another $600,000 to really fill in the reservoir and build the ecosystem from the ground up after it had been depleted from droughts. And we've succeeded in that. So are we going to suddenly just bulldoze over a $1.2 million project? That personally just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And what else I'm concerned with is the developer that is being interested in working on that lands in particular. I've done a fair amount of research. I've worked and talked with a lot of people who live in and around the Saddlebrook area, and I've heard numerous complaints about ADA failings, that they're not complying with disability acts in place, that there's no insulation in numerous buildings, and those are grave concerns that we have, especially if we want to be building 188 different apartments in there. That'll be a densely populated area with, I think the estimate was around 1,500 people suddenly moving in there. That's a huge influx to a town that's already fairly densely populated as is, considering its geographical size. So the number of concerns for me, in particular, as a lifelong resident of Superior, Colorado, I loved being able to enjoy the outdoor spaces, being able to see the prairie dogs, hear the coyotes. We used to be able to see great horned owls flying in constantly. I'm sure many of you remember when there was horse barns out here, or when the only thing down by Superior Marketplace was the Land Rover dealership and the Safeway down there, and even when there was a Blockbuster way back when. So I want to make sure that these parcels of land are still kept the way that they are, and that more apartments aren't built on top of the beautiful lands that we sometimes, I think, take for granted in Colorado. People have moved here because they want some elbow room. They don't want to be jostled in a very tight environment that's stacked one on top of the other. And just economically, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because you're dealing with an area that's not going to pay for itself from all the property taxes, given the amount of services that are going to be put into it. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense for a Colorado standpoint, but also from an economic standpoint. And also, the constituents of Superior don't want this. It would be different if we really wanted some new apartments, if we really wanted a densely populated area, but we really don't. There's concerns about the influx of people, what it would have on our students if lots of families come in. The school zone, the zoning for BVSD right now has it where all those resident students would go to Monarch K-8 and Monarch High School. And already, having been a student through Monarch K to Monarch High School, those classrooms can't get that much bigger. They're already full to bursting. And I know a lot of you have children of your own, and the best teacher in the entire world can't be the best teacher in the entire world if they're having to teach 30-plus students in a single classroom. And we don't want that. We pride ourselves in having a very robust and sound education system, and I worry with such an influx so rapidly, we'd begin to falter there. And I don't want to see Superior's reputation for being such a beautiful town, being a town that prides itself on community activism, going all the way to speaking at town hall events about the prairie dogs. I don't want to see that reputation hindered because we wanted to work with a developer to get a lot of apartments put in. So I just wanted to lend my voice to the people of Superior and hopefully to the respectable trustee members on the board. And I want to thank you, guys. See, my time is out. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Any additional public comment? Any additional public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the Chamber of Commerce update. Welcome, Heather Craycraft.
Thank you. Heather Craycraft with the Superior Chamber of Commerce, as the mayor said. Thank you. Just wanted to echo what many of you got to experience at the 4th of July, and I shared this with the town manager, Matt Magley. We have the pleasure of partnering with the town staff on the 4th of July, starting from the race through the parade to the wonderful pancakes. And if it weren't for the volunteer leadership of the newest staff member, as well as the really creative ways that the Parks and Rec staff put that event together this year, I think it would not have been able to absorb the more people that we had. There was a point in which a few of us that have been doing that event for a little while recognized that really the whole ball field was full. So after a successful race in the morning and then a fantastic parade that many of you were in, the field accommodated everyone, I think, to the best of its ability. And I just wanted to compliment the staff on the fact that each year they take feedback and they really try to make it bigger and better. And thank you for the efforts you do to keep that event and the rest of the community events in this community, because if it weren't for the over 45 business owners that had booth spaces along the ball field, it does not have the appearance, or they do not have the opportunity to get to meet with a lot of the residents. And many of them left the field saying, "When's Chili Fest? We can't wait." And we reminded them that get your booth space now, because that event is definitely growing as well. So we look forward to our September town event as well. But before that, I wanted to make sure a few of you might know, or maybe you have not heard, the Superior Chamber of Commerce has taken a new event under our wing, and we are looking forward to Sunday, August 27th for a Run Superior 5K. So we have partnered with the town as well as the sports stable, it really gives us an opportunity to highlight that building and the wonderful amenities it has, but also really try to create a place to invite those outside of the community as well as our residents to try a little 5K. So whether you're a runner at heart or maybe thinking about getting into the sport, this course will be definitely one to welcome you. So we're very excited on Sunday, August 27th, to really have a family run walk. The fee will decrease with the more people in your family that join you. So we're excited about that. It'll be a 9 a.m. race out of the sports stable and looking forward to it. So more to come, but wanted to announce that our title and presenting sponsor is Excel Energy. They have come on board, so we're excited to take their energy and get the community out running. So thank you.
Thank you, Heather. All right, our next presentation is Bill Jenks, Downtown Superior Update.
Good evening. Bill Jenks, RC Superior. We're the master developer of Downtown Superior. I'm going to have a quick update for you, as I typically do. The first and most exciting update is we're bringing on a new local project manager. His name's Bob Brevis here. Very experienced project manager and construction professional. I'm going to give him just a couple of minutes to introduce himself and talk about his history. He's going to be helping us coordinate all of our contractors on site, work with all of our builders, make sure everything's moving as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So Bob.
Well, thank you again. And I look forward to this opportunity, joining with Ranch Capital to bring construction management services to the development of Superior Downtown. I've been in Colorado my entire life. I was born and raised in Boulder, just west of here, and live currently in our West Arvada, just 20 minutes south of here. But I've been in the construction industry for 40 plus years, doing all phases of residential, commercial developments. We worked on the Flatirons Crossing Mall with that contractor, putting that in, and some other larger retail developments like Orchard Town Center, 144th and I-25. But look forward to working with the town staff and meeting the requirements of this development for Ranch Capital. Any questions?
Tell us your last name again.
It's Revis, R-E-V-I-S.
Okay, welcome.
And do you have an office here or someplace where you're going to hang out during the day?
I currently work out of my home office right now, but we're looking in the various opportunities to do that here on the site.
Okay.
But I'll visit the site almost daily.
That'd be great if you could have a spot that you hung out here somewhere.
And I have a couple questions just around how things are going. Well, first, thank you for the booth at the 4th of July. You guys had a booth. I got a pamphlet and a beer koozie, or a soda koozie, excuse me, so I appreciate that. The pamphlet had a phrase, organic in nature. Whole page. Downtown Superior, organic in nature. What does that mean?
So it's the idea behind the master plan community and planning it in such a way that you're allowing flexibility for different developers to do their own flavor of the style for Downtown Superior. It's not being so rigid and strict that it feels like a downtown Disney. As you know from some of our previous discussions on Main Street and the materials we're using, a big push and a big challenge of doing a master plan community like this, which is all brand new, is making it feel like it's been there and feel like it's organically evolved over the years, because no one really wants to go to a downtown Disney that feels like it's all brand new. So that's the idea behind that phrase, is organic in nature, is it is master planned because that's the fact of the matter, but it's master planned in such a way that it's trying to feel like something that's been here for a long time and respects the local history.
Yeah. And what could you tell us just around, let's do a few updates. Number one, on the circle and access to Main Street, when that'll be updated, how you're doing on residential home sites and getting folks contracted there, and commercial. So 3 questions there. Would love to hear an update.
So the roundabout is open to traffic, which we're all very happy about. Our contractor, Hall Irwin, is working on taking away the temporary bypass roads that were there and doing that connection to Main Street to the west. We're going to meet, Bob and I are going to meet with Hall Irwin tomorrow to get an update on that specific schedule and what date that is actually expected to be open. I don't have a solid date for you right now. I would expect it takes roughly a month, give or take a couple of weeks. I know they were dealing with another one of these pesky dry utility issues, but I think that's been resolved now. So we're going to get a lot more detail on that tomorrow, and I'm happy to share an update with Matt once we do that. Town staff is going to be at that meeting too. On the homes, we have, I think, 5 or 6 buildings under construction now. Wonderland Homes and Remington are both planning to have their model building open, I think, by the end of September. So that's when we'll have, you know, the sales offices up and people coming and being able to walk through the finished units. They are under contract collectively on roughly 17 to 20 homes, which is pretty strong. As you heard earlier, both the home builders are pretty happy with sales volume, given that none of the homes are actually complete yet. So we're rolling through that. We're under contract now on a total, on the land sale side, we're under contract with home builders on a total of 276-ish lots. So moving as quickly as we can. And what was the third? It was the homes, the commercial. Commercial, that is my, to be honest with you, my number one focus and priority. Ranch Capital is working on a capitalization structure to finance the first phase of construction, which right now preliminarily could include up to 300 high-density residential units, in addition to about 50,000 square feet of 60,000 square feet of retail and about 100,000 square feet of office. That could change. You know, we're working on the financing behind that, and I don't really want to promise anything or bring you anything in you know, for a formal submittal until we have that 100% dialed in, and I know the date that we're going to be able to start construction.
Okay. It'd be really nice to see Main Street open at some point this summer, maybe on August 27th. We put some running shoes on Main Street. That would be pretty fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to write that date down.
Right.
I actually did when Heather was talking about it, but we will do our best to make
that would just be great if we could, even if you could sweep it and make it safe for the runners on that day. That would be pretty special.
Now, you do recognize that's 2017, August 27th, 2017.
Thanks for the clarity.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'll quickly take you through these update slides, and then we can circle back to any questions. And these are the typical updates that I have for you. The hotel parcel, again, closed in February. They're out to bid with contractors right now. Bids are due this Friday to build the hotel. They expect to break ground on that in August. So we'll see hotel construction here. If anyone's been out to the site, Marshall Road here has actually been graded, and all the curbs and gutters are in. Half of the road is paved, which provides construction access to the hotel. We're working on getting the other half paved. So they'll be under construction again in roughly a month, and they're shooting for opening roughly a year after that. So summer 2018 opening. This is just a picture. I was out on the site about a week and a half ago, so this is actually paved now. But this was my last photo out there, just to give you some reference. The medical office building, the developer of that closed in March. They're underway with construction. They're framed out to certainly to the third level, maybe part of the roof. So they're moving pretty quickly out there, shooting for a target completion second quarter of next year. And this is a picture, again, a week ago. Right now they have actually framing on this next level, so they've made it a substantial way past this. And this is, again, Superior Drive. This is the existing Impact Sports. FDP Phase 1, we're working, this is our main priority from a land development standpoint right now, working to get this complete as quickly as possible this year. Right now our target completion date is end of September. Again, the detention pond is mainly complete already. We are going to come back and put some trees in there in the August-September time frame. Main Street drivable areas are complete. They've been complete for a while. Our contractor, Samora, right now is out there putting the base down for the parking areas that go on either side of that and the sidewalks. And then they'll also be putting in the trees and lighting to finish all of the pedestrian areas along Main Street, which we looked at a month or two ago. Here's a picture of that Main Street area. So again, this is just the drivable lanes. They're working on, you can't see it real well, but this is all dug out to provide the base for that parking area, and then the sidewalk will go over here, and you'll have trees kind of lining this street going all the way down that. This is the intersection of Marshall Road at Main Street, heading towards the sports stable. FDP 1 Phase 2, so Block 13 infrastructure is under construction. This is where the homes are under construction. We've got homes from Wonderland and Remington under construction on the north and the west side of that block. We have the alleys on the south half of it paved. We also have the roads all the way around it paved and complete with gutter and everything. Once Remington and Wonderland start finishing the exteriors of the homes, we'll be coming back, and Bob's going to be coordinating with them on a building-by-building basis to put in the final sidewalks and landscaping to get those ready for occupancy. But all moving pretty quickly, and you can actually go out if you're careful, try not to get in the construction way, but you can start to see the homes, single-family homes taking shape across from the park too, which are going to be really fantastic homes. And then
Where is that built?
the single-family, the first Remington single-family, which we looked at earlier, it's the 3-story tall, 40 by 45 foot lot, is right here. So if you come out to the sports stable and walk to the south end of it, here's the sports stable parking lot. Right across the street from that, the big building is a Wonderland 5-unit complex with townhomes. The building just to the south of that is the Remington single family. So you can start to see how that is framing out, and they're going to have views across this park. They're going to be really special, I think. And the Wonderland units are also really, really nice. They've got that 4th floor deck that looks out over the park, and it's a very unique product. We're also working on Discovery Parkway. This is FDP 1 Phase 2 now. So Discovery Parkway coming down from Discovery Office Park into the project, connecting to Village Green. This is going to enable Remington to build more of those single-family on the perimeter of Block 25. And we'll be coming in with final development plans for the remainder of Block 25, 14, and 26, roughly in the September timeframe. But we'd like to get under construction on Discovery in this next couple of weeks. We're just waiting for a permit, and then that should be actually in and paved by the end of the year.
So is that street material going to be asphalt?
Yep. This is a picture of exactly what we were just talking about. So this is standing in front of the sports stable facing Superior Drive here, and Old Railway here. This is the Wonderland townhome building. This is that again, this is a week or two ago, so it's actually taller than this now, but this is that Remington single-family home. And then you can see the other Wonderland building in the background here. And then blocks 14, 25, 26, and 27. This is what we looked at earlier in the work session. Additional 139 residential lots are under contract with Thrive on block 14 and 26, and Remington on the remainder of block 26 and 25. Again, we'll be coming in with FDPs formally for those in fall. And that's what I have there. So can I answer any other questions?
When the hotel made the presentation, they were going to put a piece of art outside the entrance.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to, if you haven't already heard, we have a Cultural Arts and Public Spaces Committee
Mm-hmm.
that has expressed interest in assisting with that decision if they're needed.
Okay.
And then they have made mention, and there are some representatives here tonight, they're working on an RFP right now for the artistic or sculptural treatment in the major roundabout off McCaslin. So if you're ever in town,
yep,
at the time they have a meeting, they'd love you to.
And I'd love to come out for it.
Okay.
I talked to one of the members at one of our recent marketing events, and we talked about getting together. So yeah,
That's,
give me a date, and I'll
fourth
absolutely be there.
Thursday of the month at 6 o'clock.
Fourth Thursday?
That's okay, right, Matt? Okay.
All right.
And just to add to that, the payment of those 2 art installations, both in the McCaslin roundabout and the Main Street roundabout, come out of TIF. So, when we go to actually contract with them, we'll have to work on that how we get those paid for out of your funds, out of the TIF. And it's associated with, as you get the FDPs in those blocks, which are already done because they're roundabouts and they've been constructed. So we keep that in your financial hat here, that you're going to have to come up with some of the money or maybe all of the money for that. I have some more questions too, unless someone else has anything.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the other question I have is, what's happening with hotel on Block 6? You're talking about the Elements Hotel, I
Sure.
understand that, but on Block 1. But what about Block 6 there?
Yeah, we continue to be in discussions with the same group that we've been talking to for a while on a boutique hotel to serve the downtown core at a little bit higher finish level than the select service flags that will be up here. Quite honestly, it's just a little preliminary given the state of development around here. There's very little infrastructure on the north side of this of the downtown core. Really, all the existing infrastructure is along Main Street here, and I don't want to move forward with a hotel here that could limit the available flexibility for development on the rest of Block 6 or Block 5, for example. So it's just a little early. We need to get the rest of one of those blocks planned because either one of them is much, much too big to just have a hotel on it. So whatever block the hotel goes on, whether it's 6 or 5 or 7, it's going to have a neighbor, and we need to figure out what that neighbor is first before we go and block the development pattern with a hotel.
Okay, that's great. It's just that I remember the first time we talked about that was in January.
Yep.
2016, and
Yep.
you were moving forward.
We
Yeah.
still are, but like I said, it's just because of the location. It just doesn't make sense to do it quite yet.
Okay, yeah, I recognize that. You're not as far along as you thought you would be at this time. I can recognize that. And then the progress for tenants on Main Street. I know you don't have any tenants because you don't have a Main Street yet. And then, and you're going to have it now August 27th, 2018. Oh, no, 2017, right? August 27th, 2017, Main Street will be open. And then, but again, the financing of this was another thing that you had mentioned to us back in January when you first came on board. So I just encourage you to press that faster because we're all getting older here.
No,
And yeah, you're
me
having
most of all.
babies. You're moving back to California. I mean, what can we say? Okay, and then so the temporary parking garage construction. I'm sorry, not garage, lot. Temporary construction and parking lot. It's just a pain in the ass trying to park there and get across the road and get into Boulder Valley Ice. I don't know. It was never supposed to be right there where it is anyway. So when are the plans to move it where it was supposed to be? Or what are your plans to getting more parking in so you can actually have a more conducive, instead of trying to get through fences and all this kind of stuff to get, it's not a friendly try to get into Boulder Valley Ice. It's just
well,
not.
the fences we put up because we were having so much trouble with damage on the adjacent what is now the sidewalk. It wasn't sidewalk for a long time right along here. Once we finish the Main Street sidewalks and pedestrian areas along here, we can look at how that ties to the parking lot and possibly try to get those fences down and open it up so that you can actually walk out again. It's just it was the logistics.
Right,
People were
okay.
driving over the curbs and breaking curbs, and it was bad. So we had to put the fences up. So certainly once the finishes around here are done on Superior and Main Street, we can look at bringing down the fences or moving them or making it certainly more pedestrian accessible. In terms of moving the parking lot, I would tend to wait until we actually have a development plan moving forward here, so we know.
Well, that is a plan. It's called the plaza.
No, sure, exactly. But once we know what else is going
around it,
the critical piece is what is the first phase? Does the first phase include Block 7 or not? If it does, and if it needs to, then obviously the parking can't go anywhere on Block 7 or 11. In which case, we need to look at Block 6 or Blocks 9 and 10 as a temporary parking solution. It really just depends on that first phase of commercial development.
I understand all that. I'm just saying that the way it is now, it looks like a huge construction zone. It doesn't look like we're open for business as a town, downtown Superior. It just doesn't feel right. So whatever you can do to make it feel better, to move it, it wasn't never supposed to be there. And anyway, so it just doesn't look like we're open for business.
Finishing this stuff and bringing down the fences is going to make a gigantic difference. So we'll see. We'll start there and go from there.
Okay, and then Village Green Park, when are you going to complete that?
That's planned for next year.
The park itself is
Yeah,
planned for
we're
next year.
finishing the construction documents on it this year, and we'll probably start construction on it in spring once it's, makes sense with the weather.
Okay, and that's got to be part of the next discussion of the SIA,
Sure.
because that's already been approved, and you're supposed to have it done this year.
Mhm.
Okay, all right, and then replatting for the whole planning area 3, what's your time frame kind of for that? This whole southern
So that,
section?
really, we've done some platting studies with designers out of Denver with some land planners to look at the density and the road pattern along here and how it interfaces with this pond. And the key point is getting this section of road out of the buffer zone. We have a few different options. What it really comes down to there is the builder the builder or builders who ultimately come in here and get under contract to buy lots, because they all have different product types, different lot dimensions that make different road configurations, work better
Okay,
than
so
others.
you don't have a plan to bring us a plan that changes this until you know
Not
what
until
your
we have
problem-
contracts with builders here.
Well, that makes a lot more sense, because you know how many times we've changed things, and
Exactly,
you've never had
yeah.
a builder, and then every time a builder comes, you have to cert over.
Yeah.
So I'm not pressing you for it, I'm just kind of getting an idea.
That's
of
that's
when
the idea, and
Yeah.
you can see here we're doing, and that's leading into the next discussion on FTP1 Phase 2. That's part of the reason that is the way it is too. FTP1 Phase 2 was approved, in my opinion, way earlier than it should have been, and it's not your fault. It was an application, but it was approved for roads and infrastructure that there's no builder to serve, so we don't know where the utility lines are going. We don't know how to phase those lots. So what we're doing now is actually finishing the piece that we know, which is 14, 25, 26. We're under contract on those lots. We know exactly where those lots are going. They've changed since we have been working with Thrive and Remington over the last couple of months. And so that's why we're ready to build this piece of it and extend out to Village Green in the first part of next year. But we just can't build these road sections yet because we don't have the.
Yeah, I don't want you to build them either until you know what you're
Right.
going to have there.
Right.
But some of this other stuff you're going to have to do. And my last question is, have you let more bonds, or when do you intend to let more bonds?
That's a great question. It really depends. I don't know the answer to that. We have a bond.
You've only let one bond
Yep.
series out,
So far,
right?
yep.
And now you've got the money that you were being held back on the medical office building because it's going vertical.
Yeah.
But that's all you've let. And
That's all we have so far. We have to do another bond issuance to raise additional public capital, which will be based on the tax increment of the hotel and a lot of this residential so far.
Mhm.
We're working with bond counsel out of Denver, and it's honestly pretty complicated. So I don't have a date that we're doing that next bond issuance, but obviously as soon as we can, we'd like to.
Right.
So it just depends on how the bond market values the existing development we have going on versus future development, and when exactly makes the most sense to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate the update.
I just have a quick
Okay.
question.
I wasn't wrapped up yet. Just one quick comment that I've been talking with Remington and Wonderland about doing a tour for the board and looking at doing that in August to
Okay.
get us through the models. So, okay, Mark, go ahead.
Well, my question's really general, but how do you feel it's going?
Pretty well, actually.
What has
Everyone-
surprised you about the project so far? What are you pleased with? What do you view as challenges so far? What are you seeing in terms of demand?
So, I think everything is going as expected, is what I would say, and well compared to what's expected. The residential is going very well. We all know there's huge residential demand in Boulder County right now. Home builders are looking for lots, so we're selling these lots pretty much as fast as we can get them developed, which is good news. Home sales from the builders to final home buyers are going really well considering how early we are. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out over the next 6 months as they actually finish homes and start delivering things. But everyone's bullish on the residential market. So this whole area is not one of the challenges. The hotel, we have a second parcel which is zoned for hotel here on the east side of where the Element's going. That's a little bit of a challenge because the hotel market here is arguably overbuilt. We've had this property on the market now with some pretty firm offering terms for 4 months and have gotten basically 0 responses. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that hotel parcel and when and if the hotel market comes back and there's additional demand there. That might come with additional development here because we'll have additional demand for hotel rooms. The sports stable also has an incredible demand for hotel rooms with tournaments and people staying there. So as that ramps up and the development progresses, we might very well see demand for another hotel. But right now, that's a little bit of a challenge. And then really the biggest challenge is the intrinsic nature of the entitlements and the vision here, which I think is a wonderful vision. It's the mixed use downtown core that we've all been working for so hard, for me for the last year and a half, for you for much longer. And I think there's a lot of value in that, and that's why I'm pursuing it with Ranch Capital to actually fund the first phase of construction there. But it's, as a land developer, as a pure land developer, which really RC Superior is, it's a tough deal to sell because there just aren't many people who do that kind of integrated mixed use in the country, really. I mean, there are some. There are very few in Colorado. So, I think Main Street is going to go a long way towards helping us see some progress here on the leasing and the sales front as we get the roundabout completed and we get Main Street in with the pedestrian amenities and the trees, and it starts feeling like an actual place instead of the yellow brick road and the dirt lot. It's going to feel way different. I mean, you can go out there right now and stand on this corner where I took that picture and imagine all of the trees and lights and people walking down the sidewalks and the trash cans and all the stuff that I didn't want to put in, that we're going to put in. And it's going to feel a lot different in 4 months than it does now. And with a lot of these tenants and developers, that it just goes a long way. People, even developers and architects, sometimes have a pretty limited imagery in their head. So I'm excited about that getting completed. I think it's going to go a long way towards getting the rest of this done. And I do have some very preliminary interest in some of this that we can talk about once it gets a little bit further. So overall, I'm very happy with the project. It's a big, ambitious project, and it's going really well so far.
So 2 follow-ups. The Marshall Street Bridge, and I know that's probably contingent upon building out Parks 1 and 2, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. And then just kind of generally speaking, is there anything that we can do to make this project more of a success, make your life easier?
Offer giant incentives for office for office tenants to come, which I know it's already sort of baked into the project. The bridge is probably the last piece of infrastructure that goes in, just because it's not as necessary as a lot of the other roads for delivering lots. And like I was just talking about, this north. These super blocks are really big. That's like 2 city blocks, really, at least. So really, in the development plan, in all likelihood, there's an alley that cuts through the middle of Block 6 and Block 7. You can actually see the white there. That's a drainage easement that will be an alley. So really, there's 2 blocks here. The first to develop should be the Main Street adjacent blocks that have the retail and have they're making the place. The retail makes the place. It's that's what makes it cool. It's the tequila bar and the brewery and the non-alcoholic tenants also, the boutique, the shops, and so those go along Main Street. So that should be the first to develop. The north part of Block 6 and/or 5 should come afterwards, so it can respect what happens down here. And so this bridge, while it's important to the overall vision, is like I said, probably the last piece of infrastructure that goes in. So it really just depends on how fast the rest of this goes and when we can issue enough bonds to fund the construction of that. What was the second piece of your question? Sorry. It was the bridge?
No, I think that was it. I mean, it's the bridge, and then just generally speaking, what we can do to work with you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as we, I think on what you can do to help it go faster, it's going to come on a deal-by-deal basis with tenants that come and they're looking for projects, and every tenant's going to be different as far as what they need or what they want as far as entitlements or, I don't know. We'll have to, I think, talk about it on a deal-by-deal basis. But the first and foremost, important job is attracting the attention, which we are ramping up marketing efforts. We're in the Business Journal. We're going to be in more business-to-business publications like that over the coming months. We're also doing a lot more consumer outreach. We're going to have a Pandora ad ramping up in September to help sell homes. We don't want to do any of that quite yet because we don't want people to come out and see a dirt lot and be turned away and never come back. So part of it is getting the development in a state that it's ready to present, which we're doing this year. So I think come the end of this year, beginning of next year, we're going to see some increased velocity, not only on the home sales, but hopefully also in the commercial.
Will fast tracking parks 1 and 2 assist?
Oh, he certainly can't hurt.
Interest building?
Yeah, absolutely. Having this built out and green and beautiful, of course, people are going to want to be next to that, whether it's multifamily developers or retail businesses or anybody else. I know the medical office building, I think, is still trying to lease their 4th floor too, so I'm sure that'll make it go like that. So, absolutely.
Is there any way to fold that bridge into the construction of the 2 parks? Because I've always been concerned that you build these parks and then you've got to put a bridge. I mean, it's not a minor project, and it's going to be a lot of disruption. And the hotel's going to go in, and they got to go out to McCaslin, down to the main street, and it just there's a lot of reasons that I get that it's one of the most expensive and probably could be justified to be last, but just to me the bridge is almost as important as the parks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they really fit together, and I really think it helps to. It really helps also to get that second point of access and really balance the in and out of the site.
I mean, I agree with you. I would love to build all of the roads right now tomorrow. Really, I would. It's a question of the financing and how that works. The bridge is a substantial cost, and it is funded by public dollars, which we don't have yet because we haven't issued the bond yet. And to be honest, when we do issue the bond, there's lots of other higher priority streets that I'd rather put in to be able to, for example, deliver this block 6 so that we can build an office building on it, which I don't need the bridge to do that. I'm open to discussing financing structures to try to help make that happen. I don't know what the town can do to help with that. The project doesn't have the public dollars to pay for it right now, but I'd love to put it in.
First time I've ever heard that the bridge over the river Coal Creek will be the last thing to go in. Never heard that in 4 years of having this discussion. Very surprising to me. Very surprising. Matter of fact, in the past, it was always talked about one of the first things that would go in because we needed the access. You all needed, Ranch Capital, needed the access into there. Boulder Valley Ice needed that other access into downtown Superior. So I'm very surprised. I'm actually very disappointed, too, that you would say that. I mean, I understand why you're saying it, because you don't want to pay for it until you've got a bond, and you can't get a bond until you've got vertical going up around that block. Mm-hmm. But as soon as 5 or 6 goes, I would think any portion of them, that's when that bridge needs to go in. That would be my perspective.
Yeah, and I like I said, I would love to get the bridge in sooner. The traffic counts are going to be better along here. It's going to help development. I would love to get it in as soon as possible. It's really a matter of when we can do that bond issuance and how big it is and what else we have to build.
Right, and we've given you, as a town, everything we can, which is all the property tax. So it's up to you now to build those buildings so you can get the property tax and you can do these bonds.
And that's really the heart of what this project has struggled with for the last 4 years. Is it's designed as a master plan vertical development that someone needs to come in and spend a couple $100 million to build ground up. Mm-hmm. On a spec basis, just hoping that the tenants are there.
I know,
and that's tough for this group to do. And that's me. I'm just honest.
No, I appreciate that you're honest with us
and
and tell us what you understand from your experience. But I got to tell you that is not what was fed to us and sold to us. And now, I wish we'd had more straightforward responses at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And when many of us asked these questions, we were told, oh, no, that's not the way it's going to work. It's going to work the way that they wanted us to believe it was going to work. So, again, I would say that bridge needs to go in very quickly. And it's your responsibility to get as much vertical as you can to get that bonding,
No,
because
and
we've
like I
given
said,
you the right to do that.
my number one priority right now is raising that money to do a first phase of vertical development, which is going to fund the bonds, drive a lot of development, make the place that all these residents want to live in.
Right.
Hugely important.
And the other
that-
thing
that
is
my
that
focus.
we did not tell you that super blocks have to be super blocks. You all provided that vision to us, so, you know, if you
I'm
want
not
to change
blaming-
it.
I'm not blaming you.
No, I know. If you need to change it, then you need to get to us. If we have to change it to make it more palatable
I don't think
or
there's really,
attractive.
it's not a change from a PD standpoint. It's just, there's going to be two buildings on this block, and there's going to be a separation between them, whether it's an alley or a
Right,
walking
you've shown
open
that
space.
before as a vision, yeah, I agree with you.
So you're reading my notes from the board packet on December 11th or 12th. We asked about what's your best guess on the Marshall Bridge, anywhere from 2020 to 2025, is what you said on that date.
Mhm.
It's still a window? As early as
Yeah,
2020?
I mean, build out could be anywhere from, 3 to 10 years, which is what drives the creation of that bridge. So that sounds.
I also asked about the parking for the MOB to be complete at the same time as the MOB. That's going to happen?
The parking here, you mean, or which parking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
of
that's
course.
not, it looked like it's trailing by a few months, but it's not.
You're talking about the parking right here between the medical office building and
Correct.
the, yeah. No, that should be complete at the same time.
No, the parking garage.
There's structure.
Parking, yeah, they
Structure.
won't be able to open the medical office building without the parking complete.
Throw that picture back up of the steel girders on the medical office building for a minute. There you go. Or I think there was a better one that showed, maybe it was your picture down
It's from
Main
the
Street?
outside,
From
Main
Main
Street.
Street down? Okay, look how high that is. I asked that question the other day. What's the height that's approved for that medical office building? We don't have to resolve it right now, but we could.
Checked on it, the plans, I think he told me 60 feet.
Did we go 60 feet? Okay, so see that little pointed missile silo there in the center of Boulder Valley Ice? Right there. That's 58 feet. So I'm having difficulty understanding how that building over there, which is even at a greater slope down from where the missile silo is, is actually only 60 feet. But just want to double check that. And we don't even have a roof on that building yet. I think that's the staircase and the elevator shafts. So I'm asking the question, how high is that building actually
Well,
going to
the
go?
roof will be here. It has a flat roof. So this
There's
is,
some shielding behind it. I looked at
There's
it.
typically a parapet wall, which is usually roughly 3 feet tall, and the roof. So the parapet wall would be here. The roof would be at my feet. So the roof would be at the top of these columns. The parapet wall might go a couple feet above those.
Okay. It might be an optical, as my husband would say, delusion, because I might be deluded here, but it just looks a lot higher than that 58-foot spire of the center of sports stable. Just saying. Thank you.
We can go measure it.
Just for clarity, did we approve 60 feet for a parking garage?
What Stephen had told me was for the medical office building. I have to go back and look.
Right, but not for the, aren't
don't-
we talking there about the parking garage?
No, this is the medical
No,
office building.
Those are for the MOB?
Yeah, those are the elevator shaft and the stairwells.
Okay, yes, we did. I just thought I was looking at the,
Yeah, the parking garage will actually be behind here. It's a concrete structure, so it's a
And
little
how tall is
faster than
it?
the steel. It'll be shorter than the building because the top level doesn't have a roof. So it'll
okay.
probably be 50 feet, maybe 55 to the top of the parapet.
To the walls.
Maybe a little bit
Yeah.
taller to the towers on the sides.
So,
Maybe
Bill,
60 to the
an
towers.
issue with that bridge is the design that we all fell in love with by Loris, I believe. Loris Associates did the landscape design of Park 1 and 2. That bridge was a material element. And how the little amphitheater played in, and how you go under that to the other side, and how that is all sloped, et cetera. So I just have a real issue, even in my mind, conceiving of how you can finish out those parks along Marshall without
Well,
putting
part
in
of-
some of that stuff
Part of
for
what
the
we've
bridge.
talked about with this advanced funding agreement for the parks is that it may not cover the entire scope that was shown in those. You know, the scope, I think the cost on those plans was like $7.5 million, something like that for those two parks. We're not talking about funding the entire 7.5. So the idea here was that we would go in, do some portion of those parks. Probably doesn't include the stuff right adjacent to the bridge. Maybe we just put grass or shrubs in that for now, and then you come back and finish another $2 million worth of park improvements around the bridge when the bridge goes in.
When you do it?
Yeah, and so right now you'd get, you know, the field and the big grass areas, a lot of the pathways that go along there, creek improvements, all of that, but not the little play structure that was next to the
So by
bridge and that kind of
definition,
thing.
you're saying those cool elements will be at the tail end of this build-out
Because
in
they're next to
20
the
whatever.
because they're next to the bridge. I mean, you know, like you nailed it on the head. Is you don't want to build those and then
I'm like Rita.
demolish them to put a
First
bridge in.
I've heard of this coming at the tail end.
Okay. Sandy, do you have any comments? Okay. Anyone else? All right. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate the update. Thank you.
You make sure and come back again now.
All right. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. Item number 11, we have A, B, and C. We have a motion to approve consent agenda A, B, and C.
I so move.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Pennington, second by Trustee Dozell. All those in favor? Okay, passes unanimous. All right, we have 11D, which Mayor Pro Tem Pennington has pulled. Adoption of a resolution approving an agreement with Nora Concrete Construction Corporation for the 2017 concrete repair project.
Okay, so Alex read my mind. You're here. So we've had this conversation occasionally about the need for chases on some residential streets and all that kind of stuff. And I saw two of the drawings there on the fourth section, one on page 5 and one on page 9. So they're in front of residential properties, and they involve chases. Is the town paying for those chases, or is the homeowner paying for those chases?
Alex Aronello, Director of Public Works. In those cases, I'll have to research that, get back to you on exactly what's happening there. They may be areas that involve regional issues that we need to put a chase in.
It appeared to be in the middle of the property, just where I'm seeing them on page 5 and page 9. That's why I'm asking the question. One looks in front of the property.
Yeah, bringing up my drawings here.
Page 5 of section 4. The one on the top left.
We will continue to treat these chases as we have in the past with.
You haven't changed
homeowners.
policy?
We
So
have
if they're
not.
regional, the town may pay, and if they're in front of the property,
Right. If it's coming just directly
the
from
homeowner pays.
the homeowner
correct,
pays,
yeah.
yes.
Okay. That was my question. But having said that, a lot of our road problems are caused by the lack of chases in our sidewalks. I happen to have one of these issues, and I happen to pay for the chase, which is one reason I'm asking this question. But it has caused a fairly deep split in the asphalt completely across the entire span of the roadway. So I wanted to ask for a broader discussion of this, maybe during budget time when we look at the budget. But that's why I pulled this item.
Okay, well, we'll do some research and provide some policies we have and some issues that have been ongoing with the chases.
Because it seems to me to be penny wise and pound foolish. You know, it's pretty affordable for the town to put in a chase, not so much the homeowner. It's a little steep for a homeowner. But if you're going to be saving $10,000, $15,000 of road repair, it seems to me put in more chases and do less road repair might be a wise economic decision.
Something we can definitely discuss during the budget.
Okay.
Alex, what is the approximate timing for the median at Rock Creek at Safeway and Bell Flatirons?
Well, we haven't met with the contractor yet to come up with a schedule. We'd like everything done by mid-October. We'll work with them and try to get that first on their list to get that going. We have ordered I think they're almost in the rectangular flashing, so those are on order and they should be in any day now. So those will all be set to go, and we'll be putting a median brake and ADA ramps and so forth. So as soon as we meet with the contractor, we'll relay that. That should be one of their higher priorities to schedule.
Okay, great. Anyone have anything else? Okay. Sandy?
I will. Are we ready to
We're ready.
do the resolution? I move
Microphone, you have it on?
It's on.
Oh.
I shall
Sorry.
talk louder.
Okay.
I move the approval of Town of Superior Resolution Number R36, Series 2017, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of Town of Superior approving a construction contract with NORAA Concrete Construction Corporation for the 2017 concrete repair project.
Okay, I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Pennington, second by Trustee Dozell, and a roll call vote.
Pennington?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Dozell?
Yes.
Folsom?
Yes.
Hammerly?
Yes.
Hanson? Laces?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimous. Thank you. All right, next is item number 12, discussion of a request for proposal, RFP, for the Cultural Arts and Public Spaces Advisory Committee. Welcome.
Hello, good evening. I'm Marcia Rain with the Cultural Arts and Public Spaces Committee. And here's Melinda, and there's Debbie, also a couple of our members. I want to let you know that we've worked very hard on the material that you have in front of you. It's about, I would say, 90% of the terminology and the specifics in that RFP came from 3 different RFPs that already exist. One, the horse sculpture that we already have in the Superior Marketplace. That RFP was used as a template. Also, the underpass RFP that our group also worked on last winter. And then also, Sedona, Arizona has quite an active public arts program, including Art in Roundabouts. And so taking a look at their RFP was very helpful, too, to design our own for the roundabout. And I understand all this energy towards getting housing and footings for the hotels all finished, and nothing makes a community look like it's ready and finished than a major piece of art. So we have been working on this RFP for a major piece of art in the large roundabout on McCaslin. And we're thinking of something in the way of 25 feet tall. And our RFP is designed around something major like that. At our group meeting last month, we determined the critical elements that should be a part of this public work, and those critical elements are in your packet. There's a timeline that's rather important about this. I'm hearing a lot of concern about how soon things can go in, and we have a timeline for accepting applications for this commission right there in your packet, and it includes artists to be aware of the RFP and have read about the RFP and thought about it and created designs and get their applications for this commission into the town by October 1st of this year. So that's actually quite a short time frame. And we still have to pass the hurdles of your approval of the RFP as it's written in here, and then we would ask you to pass this RFP along to the town attorney, which probably has a boilerplate specific to the town to plug these details in there. And once that is completed, then it can be advertised. So just as soon as this could be approved and passed along to the town attorney, it follows that everything else will move along towards completion of the sculpture. Now, when we say October 1st, the application should be due, it's only 6 weeks later, on November 15th, we have it on the timeline there, that the finalists will be selected, and there would be 3 finalists expected to give us a presentation, and then we choose a finalist, and after that is all well and done, we have a 9-month window ending with October 1st of 2018 to be able to have the artist fabricate and deliver the sculpture. Now, it may seem like that's a long period of time, but really I'd like to explain just a moment that what happens first, of course, is we've got to select the artist out of the finalists. You have to select the artist out of the finalists, and then the artist will be doing additional drawings to scale beyond the presentation materials that they've made. And so that's going to take some time, and that artist also needs to hire an engineering staff to be able to make the specifications clear and in the format for our public works people to be able to understand. That takes time. Then there is the fabrication, which is probably the most time consuming. If there's going to be anything that's cast metal or carved stone, these things take a great deal of time. Then the artist or artists on a team to create this one piece would need to work with our public works department on masonry, landscaping, concrete, what kind of a pedestal and footing is going to be appropriate for the size and shape of the piece that's going in there. So that's why it may seem like that's a long time, but in reality, 9 months is pretty much the minimum for creating something on this scale. So we would ask, our committee would ask, let's see, I got the good terminology right here. Let me just find it in my scribbled notes here. First of all, I think I have to ask if there are any questions or anyone wants clarification on the specifics in that RFP. Yes.
At the top, it says Public Art Project Roundabout at McCaslin Boulevard and Main Street. So there are 2 roundabouts, one at McCaslin and Main, and then the one on Main. Do you mention the Main Street one ever? Or any reference to the fact that we eventually will have another roundabout too, to give the, kind of anticipate that there's another roundabout that will need art as well?
Well, because it's a little smaller roundabout than this one, I do see it being a really easy process once this RFP is approved and we get the artists aware of the major project. It will be really easy, almost a duplicate, to get a second RFP for the smaller roundabout. So
Okay.
I do see these things happening somewhat,
Sequentially.
or overlapping to some degree. But I think that the town would be more pleased to be able to have an entire group of artists that are considered for McCaslin, and then also another entire group of artists that are considered for the second roundabout, so that we're not having, not sealed into one artist doing both.
Okay, that's fine. I think that's a great plan and strategy, Marcia. And then I didn't see any place where it said the size of the circles or maybe a picture of the circle itself.
There's a link.
Oh, did I miss a link? I don't have a link.
I've never seen that. You've missed something.
I don't have a link.
It's in there.
There's a
well,
little.
Okay, I missed a link. I don't see a link in mine.
There's a link and there's
I'm never perfect.
technical drawings
I just
about the
strive to be.
roundabout, and there's a little thing that says 1 inch equals 50 feet, and there's another one that says 1 inch equals 40 feet. So if you kind of fedge between the two, it looks like the lateral size of the roundabout is going to be about 65 feet. Would you say that's about accurate?
Interior circle.
Yeah,
Where is
the
it?
interior circle's about 65 feet.
How come mine
diameter.
doesn't have any blue things in it?
Is that right? Did you just confirm
Yeah.
65 feet?
Yep. Yeah, so if we're talking monumental, a major
on page
sculpture is
one,
what
just
I've been
like
hearing the town wants. 20 to 25 feet is only going to be, a third of the diameter. Yeah. So then, any other questions? Yes.
So I love everything about this. Thank you. Absolutely love this. I think I've done hundreds of RFPs, and this is as good as an RFP as I've seen. It provides the rigor that our town policies require, yet it's clearly more art than science. So you nailed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
One, I want to hear for feedback. There's a sentence, proposals will be accepted for up to $200,000 for this project.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody submits a proposal for $201,000, they're in the rejected pile. I don't think that's what we mean. And so I'm hopeful that we could say the budget for this project is $200,000. And that is a budget, and I'd like the artist to stick to it. But when I look at RFPs, I don't like to see that level of rigor if that's that minimum requirement, if that's not exactly what we mean. But it's a budget, and I'd like to see the artist participate on that budget. So hopefully, I know you want to get this out soon, but maybe the attorney could help us make that change immediately if the rest of the board would support it.
Staff can make it.
By all means, make that adjustment.
Second, there is a RFP site that the staff will post this on that no artist has ever or will ever go on. And so hopefully you will use your own connections and social media, and we can contact the artist that you like in New Mexico and ask for her friends to respond to this. I'd like to see, and then I'd like to ask staff, as they start evaluating this, hopefully there will be a little bit more flexibility. This isn't a construction contract where somebody's bidding, concrete materials that, they understand how to work with Alex. These are artists, and I want to make sure we don't miss the right artist because they didn't dot an I or cross a T.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully there's that level of flexibility. And the timeline to me seems very reasonable and not too long, not too short. I think it's fantastic. Great job.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I just want to follow up with Kevin's point about the $200,000. I'm curious. Obviously, we've spoken already at length about our vision for something grand and really something that makes an impact, right? Because it's a defining corridor for the town and a defining intersection. I'm curious, where did the $200,000 number come from? Can you just speak to how you arrived at that as being a reasonable number for this project?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have right here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 items that the project would be broken down into 12 different categories of funding. I just read through them really quickly, just for your interest. The permits would cost about $2,000. The engineering and final inspection, $8,500. Fabrication, shipping, and assembly, $70,000. Concrete, $10,000. Masonry, $8,000. Landscaping, $3,000. Artist fee, $30,000. Maquette and the site visit. Maquette is a small example of it that gets approved here, and a site visit by the artist, $3,000, and then emergencies or contingencies, $7,000, sales tax on materials, $10,000, and then $20,000 for installation. Now, when I say $20,000 for installation, most cities and towns want to install something this big themselves. With their own public works department and their own contractors, rather than have somebody come from out of state. So when I say $20,000, that would be a cost to that department. No, that's inside the 200. Yeah. Right. And that is another point. Yeah, I brought that up purposely so that we could separate that out. I think that it would be logical to make the cost of this project, $180,000, if the town is willing to do the installation, which is estimated cost to the town of about $20,000.
How much did the two stallions How much did the two stallions in the marketplace cost? What did we learn?
The two stallions were $100,000, not including the cost of installation.
And I think you had some of those in Sedona or someplace. I think you talked about 65,000 for one, and so anywhere from 100 to 200,000, a very reasonable budget for this installation. And I think, Marcia, you should remind Alex that what happened to the person who built the blue stallion out at DIA. His head, the head fell on the artist and killed him. So just installation is very important.
Installation is very important. Yes, the big blue devil horse, that's outside of DIA, was constructed and cast in 3 parts. And during the process, one of the parts fell on the artist and killed him. And another team had to be brought in to finish the project. So, yes, installation and fabrication is very important.
Marcia,
but I would not go as low as $100,000 on this project because...
No, I'm just saying that, because you were saying there's 100, definitely 200 is not unreasonable number.
Right.
So, are we going to get something absolutely fantastic for
yes,
180?
Guaranteed.
For 180?
Yes.
Okay, because I certainly don't want it to be short something because we cut out the 20 for the installation.
Well, like Mr. Ryan said, if you don't want to split hairs, you could say 200,000, which we've written into here, and also ask the Public Works Department to come with the with the vendors or the contractors to do the installation.
I think that'd be a great project for the new project manager from downtown Superior.
So, any other questions? Okay, then now I get to read my sentence here. It's then the CAPS committee requests the town attorney to assemble the RFP based on what we have written as soon as possible so that it can be posted on the internet sites that we do have a list of to be able to announce to artists and get this
Marcia,
on the road as
I
quickly
do
as
have
possible.
One question. Under the estimated timeline, December 4th?
Yes.
That second sentence under that, artists provide final drawings and construction documents to Town of Superior. Is that during the oral presentation when the 3 come, or is that after one has been selected?
We are asking 3 finalists to come for an oral presentation.
And are you asking all to do final drawings and construction documents?
Yes.
Okay.
And getting these things taken care of in the first roundabout will be so useful and so instrumental in taking care of the second one.
Okay.
So we may very well discover the artist or the design that everyone falls in love with during this first RFP and be able to contract the second commission. So.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda is number...
So have we decided we're going to include 200?
Budget up to 200, yeah.
Not up to, just our budget is 200, the same.
Okay.
Sorry, the exact same language. I want to model this language over the budget we had for the commission of the broadband study, which was, we said the budget was X dollars,
Okay.
and the budget for that was 20, and we awarded somebody for 56.
Okay.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Budget up to. Can I ask Hillary a question? The committee had quite a discussion and decided this was beyond their pay grade. Once a contract is in the process of a contract being let to one person, there will be all these elements of deadlines and deliverables, et cetera, et cetera. I assume your law firm has dealt with public art and has templates of what the final contract with a individual artist will look like?
We could certainly specify those types of deadlines within a scope or a schedule.
And so I sent Kendra the RFP. She's seen it. She'll have some edits, or
Right.
one of the two. And then Kendra also sent me a installation agreement that she's done for the city of Vale, which we would modify for this project.
Let's talk about the Blue Horse again at DIA. Apparently, this guy was paid quite a lot of money and didn't produce, didn't meet deadlines and all that kind of stuff. And so we want to make sure from the outset we're very clear with the artist. The steps along the way he's got to meet.
Right. There are typically benchmarks that trigger
Right.
payment. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anything further? All right, now we're on to item number 13, adoption of a resolution approving the second amendment to the subdivision improvement agreement for the final development plan, phase 2 of the Superior Town Center.
Thank you, Mayor. So the master developer, RC Superior, has requested an extension to the subdivision improvements agreement for final development plan 1, phase 2 of the project. It was originally approved by the board on August 25th, 2014. First amendment was approved last year on October 10th of 2016, which basically simply extended the deadline for completion of the work until December 31st of this year. This amendment revises Section 6 of the SIA to extend the completion date for those improvements to December 31st of 2018. And hopefully the last extension for these improvements. Mr. Jinks is here. He can come up and talk to. We've gone over quite a bit of the improvements that have been completed, have been started, and are expected to be completed next year. The total budget for these improvements that was included in the engineer's estimate was $11.3 million. Staff's recommending approval, and the map there that Bill has pulled up kind of highlights the improvements, and a map was included as part of your packet as well. You want to just highlight?
Yeah. So and this doesn't actually show FDP1 Phase 2 and all of its extent. It would include these roads down to Street 5 and wrapping Block 14, Village Green, and Block 15. As we discussed earlier, we're working on actually getting half or more than half of the FDP1 Phase 2 complete by the end of this year, which includes the extension of Discovery Parkway from Discovery Office Building down to Street 5 and Street 5 up to the intersection with the north border of Village Green here. We won't be installing Village Green this year, but we do plan to next year. And we won't be installing either of these sections of road this year because they're not currently permitted, and we quite honestly just wouldn't have time. We're also going to be putting in this section, I think this year. So, we had this discussion at the earlier this year, at the end of last year, and kind of giving attention to the FTP that had been designed and approved years ago that didn't have any adjacent development to support the actual design. I asked if you'd prefer if we just amend the FDP to take some of that stuff out and come back to you with a new design whenever it's ready, or if we just extend the existing time frame and keep the existing approvals. I'm quite honestly okay either way, and then the direction that I heard from staff and and some members of the board was just to extend the time frame for this, and that's why we're here tonight.
Okay, questions from the board? Rita?
I always have questions.
Happy to answer.
I know you are, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you stand up there and answer the questions to ours. One of the things, if I remember right, that was a conflict was you were trying to change your vesting rights, which dealt with the upper portion or the northern portion of, and then this. So, there was a lot of mixture about taking out and putting in and stuff like that. No vesting right changes. This is just an SIA changing of the date, but doesn't change your vesting rights for the property, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Now, so you've got the whole list of items you're going to complete in 2017, and you feel pretty confident that you're going to complete those?
So everything is always contingent on a permit, so we can start work. We were actually hoping to start work on Discovery Parkway a week or two ago, and there were some complications with design and getting through the permit process. So, hopefully we get a permit for this in roughly a week, and we can start construction on this section of Discovery Parkway, which is some of the deepest foundations. There's a deep, big stormwater line and that kind of thing that takes a while to get in. If we can start that by next week, the schedule is to have it all in before the end of this year, before the freeze, so we can actually get the asphalt down, which really needs to happen before October.
Right.
Once October hits, we're a little bit, hands are tied as far as the weather, being able to pave. So the plan is, and still feeling pretty good about it, assuming we get a permit the next week, is to get this section of Discovery in actually around here, from here and then turning left on Street 5 up to, I think, this point, and by the end of this year, and then coming back next year and installing the Village Green Park. And actually this year would be this section of Promenade and this section of Discovery down to that portion there.
Did we see a boulevard in a portion of that Discovery Parkway earlier when we saw the concept plan?
You mean the little section with the island there?
Yeah. Yeah, or an island. It's not a boulevard, it's just a traffic island. Okay. All right. And then, but even though you've got the list that you're going to complete in 2017, by changing this date till end of next year, all of those things could slip too, because we've changed. I mean, they could if they had to, but you're still.
Hopefully they don't. The plan is to have them done this year, but for simplicity's sake, it's just extending the entire SIA, the entire FDP deadline.
Okay, and then as we go forward, I know you're doing a better job with that than others in the past have, but when we go through all of this public process to do all of this and sign the agreements, 3 extensions later, and you still don't have anything done, is really wearing and frustrating. You know that. You're frustrated, so are we. Okay, and then, so you said that there's $11.3 million for the public improvements for the entire FDP, correct? Not just the ones that you're trying to move into 2018.
Right.
We still have a line of credit or a bond that if the town needed to, we could go and tap that and complete them ourselves?
Yep.
Okay. Is it the full force of the $11.3 million, or is it reduced based on, I suppose it would be reduced based on what you get done by the end of the year? I just answered my own question. So, and if you ever want to give up on doing it, maybe turn it over to the town, we could probably get it done faster than you did the roundabout.
As much as that hurts. Well, and I really am excited about having Bob on board. I think he's going to bring a lot of construction know-how and
I appreciate that too, that you got
somebody
somebody that's been involved in large projects.
And he's going to be very involved. So I think he's going to do a good job helping with those kinds of issues.
Okay.
So I'm really hopeful that we don't see that kind of schedule slippage anymore. But also, the question about these roads around Block 15, as we kind of discussed, there's no development there to support yet. You can't build the road until you know where all the utility laterals are going for the water services and all that stuff. And you don't know
for each of the lots or each of the buildings.
And we don't. I could guess at that, but all that does is limit the number of people who are willing to come in and build there, because maybe it doesn't fit their development pattern.
Yeah.
So no matter who does it, no one would want to build these roads until we know what's going on next to them. So it just, it's one of those things that just doesn't make sense to build.
Much better for us, or for me. I won't talk about everybody, speak for everybody else, but I love talking to somebody who really knows how to actually develop something. So I appreciate that. So will the Village Green be built as approved in 2014?
Yep.
Okay, and will the additional costs due to inflation and overages and the delays and all that, that's going to be covered by you, right? So,
it'll be counted towards the $10 million.
I don't like that. Remember, we've had this discussion before, so I think we should keep that as an open item, that we're using up more and more and more of our $10 million because you all are delaying.
We can see what the, my job and my position is going to be to enforce the letter of the contracts always.
Right. So as we get there, let's just know that we maybe need some wiggle room somewhere here because, we now seem to be, as a town, helping you get your parks done faster and sooner because we're advancing money. And the Village Green was approved 3 years ago. And
it'll be a more substantive conversation once we have the bids in. We'll design it this year. We'll go out to bid probably first quarter of next year. We'll have numbers by March when we're ready to start, and then we can discuss what that looks like.
Okay, and then my last question is, you referenced Central Park, but Central Park has nothing to do with any of this FDP. So
FDP1 Phase 2 originally included not the actual park improvements, but it does include this detention pond, which we're working on final design for now.
Right.
I am actually working on a rebooted park plan for this area so that we can build a pond that works with that future park design. We're going to be reviewing that with town staff in the next couple of weeks. It also included this section here, and this is just, I'm trying not to confuse things, but FDP1 Phase 2 included this section south of the detention pond, which originally was included in FDP1 Phase 1. So right now we have sort of two FDPs that cover the same area. In our last meeting, when you approved the amendment to FDP1 Phase 1, we said that area is going to be built per the design of the original FDP1 Phase 1. So we're installing that now, along with the rest of FDP1 Phase 1, with the original landscape design. So that, by your action, really approving that amendment to FDP1 Phase 1 excluded that area from FDP1 Phase 2. So that's no longer part of FDP1 Phase 2, even though it was in the original drawings.
Right, I remember that.
Everyone follow that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, the point, though, for me is that you mentioned Central Park here, and I want to, because I mention this every chance I get, and as a liaison to our historical commission, we have to have a road access to the cemetery. Yep. So just make sure anything you do around Central Park has to include somewhere, somehow, a road access and some parking restored back at the gate entrance of that cemetery.
Yeah, our design right now, and part of this plays into a conversation we haven't had yet about a Campus Drive connection. I don't know where that stands, but oh, wonderful. So we'll see what that looks like. Our design for this right now actually extends, and it's a preliminary design, no one's reviewed it or anything yet, but it extends Street 5 up here to connect to that future Campus Drive bridge, which would have a access directly off of that to a new parking lot directly in front of the cemetery gates, and a pedestrian access coming down into the park and tying to the
Excellent.
rest of the trails.
I had heard that from Matt, but I wanted you to say it publicly, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Is Bob in addition to Lee? Or is a
Bob's actually
replacement
replacing
for
Lee. Lee is taking a position as Vice President of Land Development with Boulevard Builders.
With who?
Boulevard Builders. It's a home builder, local home builder. Sorry.
I thought I had interpreted that he's sort of the legs here since you're in California.
No, I'll still be very involved here. I'll be coming out for all of the board meetings and regular meetings. This is still my #1 priority. So I'll be here. I'm still managing all of the sales contracts and the overall development pattern and schedule. Bob's going to be stepping into that role a little bit more. He's going to be a little bit more involved in some of the entitlements and coordinating with the builders, getting our FDP packages coordinated and submitted. Because I think we do need someone here who's really focused day to day on that. So he's going to step into that a little bit more than Lee ever was, but he's also replacing Lee on the construction management side.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? All right. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion approving Town of Superior Resolution number R-37, Series 2017, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior approving the second amendment to the subdivision improvement agreement for the Superior Town Center, Phase 2.
Okay, motion by Trustee Lasis, second by Trustee Ryan. All those in favor? Passes unanimous. Thank you. All right, next is item number 14, adoption of a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Louisville for Campus Drive.
Thank you, Mayor. This agreement's up for reconsideration by the board after members of the Superior Louisville Joint Issues Committee had an opportunity to discuss the intent of the agreement at their last joint issues meeting. And Mayor Pro Tem Pennington can offer up her thoughts or comments on that discussion. What it came down to, in my mind, was to remove any references to construction and the intent solely being to get cost estimates and preliminary designs for the improvements that are discussed in the agreement. Mainly Campus Drive, the possibility of widening 88th Street Bridge to 4 lanes and other associated intersection improvements in that area. With both local governing bodies to determine at some point in the future what would be submitted for a Denver Regional Council of Governments Transportation Improvement Program application sometime later this year or early next year. I think the application deadline is March of 2018. So we have some time. But
March.
we need to know what the costs would be before you have all the information to make an educated decision on what you want to include in that application. So based on that, the agreement was revised. You have a red line copy in your packet. Staff's recommending approval. The Louisville City Council approved the IGA with no changes at their July 5th meeting. And based on our action tonight, it will either move forward or not. And available for any questions.
I just have one comment more than a question, is that it talks about, as you said, the possibility of widening 88th and the bridge. But I think we also understand that that could also mean taking a look at how to move traffic with acceleration and turn lanes and stuff. It wouldn't necessarily only be looking at widening it, but also how better to improve it.
That's correct.
I don't want to change the document because everybody's approved it.
Right.
And I think we should go ahead, but we should be aware that it's not only looking at widening it, it's also looking at improving it in other ways.
That's correct, yep.
I'm all for it. Let's go.
I also want to point out to the board that, as you're aware, one of the provisions is a financial cost to us is where we pay the city of Louisville for improvements for the Davidson Mesa underpass a year earlier. We have that ability in our budget to do that, but it's just making the payment a year earlier. So.
Okay. Sam?
This is night and day from the one we reviewed earlier, and really appreciate this being as clean as it is.
Okay, anything further? Someone make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the Town of Superior Resolution Number R38, Series 2017, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior approving an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Louisville regarding the conceptual design of Campus Drive and regional traffic improvements.
Okay, motion by Trustee Dozell, second by Trustee Lasis. All those in favor?
Roll
sorry,
call.
we'll need a
Roll call vote.
Yeah, thank you.
Or money. Yes.
Yes.
Hammerly?
Yes.
Lasis?
Yes.
Pennington?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Anything further before we adjourn? Okay, see everyone in August. We're adjourned.
Oh my God, it's awesome.